All right, what's going on? Drive time, Thursday afternoon. 17 minutes past the hour of 2 o'clock. Sean and I had a lengthy crosstalk today. Talked about Utah football's run defense that was a little bit problematic a year ago, and hopefully that will be rectified coming up this season. And we are about to get the answer to that and so many other questions, boys and girls. We are 1 week away. 1 week away from Utah football. You've been waiting for it all off season long. As I say, as we kind of enter the game portion of the calendar, enjoy it, okay? Enjoy it while it's here, because we all wait for it, and then it shows up, and then we blink, and it feels like it's done. You don't get a lot of these things. It's one of the reasons football is king in our country. You have 6 opportunities to see your football team. You have 6 Saturdays to attend a game in your community, and that's all. You get 6 Saturdays all year long to go up to Rice-Eccles Stadium and watch Utah football play. 3 straight home games right out of the gates for the non-con. Idaho is in town next Thursday, 1 week from today, for a 7 o'clock Mountain Time kick. Our pregame coverage that day will begin at 3 o'clock. Set your clocks right now. For next Thursday at 3 o'clock, Porter will get things started for you. And then, of course, we'll hand it off to Bill and Sly and Zach Moss roaming the sidelines. Television coverage for that game if you're not able to make it up to the stadium. But let's try to get up there and pack the place. Stop by our tailgate and say hello. ESPNU will have the television coverage for Utah football coming up next Thursday. On Saturday, it will be BYU's turn and Utah State's turn. And college football is officially back. Congratulations. The long wait is over. We have a lot to do on the show today. Speaking of BYU, BYU has restructured their athletic departments, and Kalani Sitake no longer has to report to Brian Santiago. He will report to Vice President Keith Vorkink. And football is breaking away essentially from the rest of the sports. Brian Santiago will oversee the remaining 20 sports that BYU houses. So if you thought the smoke led to some fire, well, it certainly did. It is clear that Kalani did not want to deal with him anymore. Kalani did not want to report to Brian Santiago anymore. So the reports about those two not necessarily playing well in the sandbox appears that they're true. And another lesson that the most powerful person in most athletic departments is not the athletic director. It is the head football coach. So there you go. It became official about a half hour ago. Kalani Sitake no longer reports directly to Brian Santiago, but instead to a university vice president. Santiago oversees the remaining athletic department programs. So there you go. RSL will be back in action coming up on Saturday. Our local soccer team, the little engine that could, as I like to say, right now cannot. Smoked in the Leagues Cup quarterfinal. Have not won a MLS game since May 16th. That was before the World Cup. 4 losses, 3 draws in their last 7. They're now 8th in the West with 6 days left in the summer transfer window. Give Pablo some players. This is actually getting pretty silly and somewhat pathetic in small time. Because you know who's going to be blamed here is Pablo. And I don't find that to be fair. It's not his fault. He's had 2 really good teams. You broke one down to sell Andres Gomez. You broke another down to sell Xavier Gozo. And the majority of your signings have been misses, if we're calling it how it is. High speed ahead to week 1 in the NFL. We'll start moving some coverage on this show over to pro football. So we'll get to some NFL storylines as well. We are just weeks away from training camp for the Jazz. So a great time of year. One of my favorite times of the year. Ready for a day that's not 90 degrees. You guys with me? Raise your hand if you're with me there. It is hot today. Little cloud coverage in downtown Salt Lake. But happy Thursday, almost to that weekend. We'll start things off today with the new color analyst for Utah football broadcasts right here on your home of the Utes for 75 years. Stevenson Sylvester will bat leadoff today. I always enjoy my conversations with Sly. Recorded Talkin' Real, the TV program I do with our friends over at KUTV with my friend Brian Dunseth today. And Dunny, if you're an RSL fan, let me just say this. I know a lot of you don't care, and that's fine. I'm never going to force soccer on you. You don't want to be a fan. That's fine. I don't give a rip. But for those of you that are, or if you're listening and you're not, but you have a friend that is, get them in front of a radio at 3 o'clock today, because I think Dunny has some things that he's going to share today that you're going to want to hear, and I'll leave it there. Our very own Sean O'Connell is able to sit down once a week during the football season with Utah quarterback Devin Dampier for a segment we like to call Dishing with Devin. And when we have the ability to do so, we like to bring that around to the afternoon drive. We will do that today at we'll call that 4 o'clock. Roxy Bernstein, our friend from ESPN, our old buddy from the Pac-12 Network, is going to join us, and it is a Thursday, so you know what that means. A little sports court with our friends from Handy and Handy on a Thursday show. Stevenson Sylvester, Brian Dunseth, Roxy Bernstein, Devin Dampier, me, Spence Checketts, all of you, the great listeners, and the producer of this program, Porter Larson. Did you notice that I'm dressed like an adult today?
I was going to say, what's the occasion?
Meetings.
Huh.
I've been at it since 7:30, bro. All day.
I did, and not to completely change the subject, but I noticed when you were nominated for Radio Reporter of the Year, whatever.
No, hold on. The nomination is for Utah of the Year.
That too.
Yeah, no, that first and foremost. I deserve that award.
But you're a TV guy now, so I'm curious why the radio reporter thing is a nomination.
Well, I've only been doing TV for 9 months. I've been doing radio for 20 years. I think I'm probably branded as a radio guy in our market.
That's fair.
But let's be clear about what the most important award is, okay? City Weekly has nominated me as Utah of the Year.
This is true.
Not Radio Reporter of the Year. And look, at first I'm like, this is kind of awkward. And then as I thought about it, I'm like, no, I deserve this award. Mm-hmm. I'm the best person in the state. Nobody argues that.
There you go.
Everyone says that all the time.
I hear it weekly.
I've never heard it. That's what makes it so shocking. Oh, man. If I win that award, do I have to go to a dinner and, accept it?
Yes. Speech.
A speech?
I think if you win that award, you got to give a speech.
Okay. All right.
Specifically that one.
Well, I'm up against some pretty hefty competition.
Yeah. The Wizard.
Dallin Oaks is not. I can't win an award over Dallin Oaks.
A wizard and a prophet, and you.
And me.
Who? Yeah, maybe a wizard and a prophet.
Well said. I believe the owner of the metal shop is also nominated.
Okay.
Is it a serious thing? I don't know.
I don't know that any of those awards things are serious things. I say this is a several-time runner-up of the top radio show in Salt Lake City.
6 times for this program.
I don't know that they're serious, but they're something. They're fun, maybe.
If I win Utah of the Year, is there a pathway for a Nobel Peace Prize? What about a FIFA Peace Prize?
We can make one up.
Perfect. That's all I need. So if you guys want to go vote for me for Utah of the Year, it's the City Weekly Awards, which is wild. All right, Stevenson Sylvester, who should be in the mix for Utah of the Year, will be our first guest today. But before we get to slide, courtesy of our friends at IFA Country Stores, it's time now for your opening tip. Now, like any good coach, it's time to update the game plan for a healthy green lawn. As the hot weather continues this month, make sure you're using IFA Step 3 Spring and Summer Lawn Food for healthy turf that stays green every season. IFA Step 3 Lawn Food, it is the ultimate lawn owner power move. All right, this has been... I'll just start with this is un-BYU-like, okay? Very good at controlling messaging. A very professional sports information department with really, really good people that do an excellent job. Let me be clear there. They're really good to us. It's not hard for us to get good BYU guests on the show because they're very, very professional and they're allowing access in a way that some people don't. I'll just leave that there. So this is not a knock on them, because I very much like and respect those people. This Kalani Sitake, Brian Santiago story, 9 days before their first game. See, what you want during fall camp is you don't want guys like me yapping into a microphone about anything other than your first game or anything other than what's it going to look like and, how's your quarterback and how's the line coming along? Is there depth? Is everybody healthy? Are you ready for game day? That's if a sports talk radio host in your market cracks a microphone and they're talking about a chasm between the AD and the head coach, it's not good news for you. It wasn't good news for Utah last December when everything got loose with Witt and Mark Harlan, it's not good news for BYU that we're 9 days away from the first game, and they're shaking up their athletic department, splitting football off from the other 20 sports. So the Deseret News is where I saw this. If somebody else got it first, congrats to them. So Kalani is now going to report to a university vice president, and athletic director Brian Santiago will oversee the remaining programs. See, this is interesting on a number of different levels. Okay, so number one is it's very clear that Kalani was upset with Brian. That's very clear now. Because when the story first surfaced after Kalani went on Criddle's show, and he had said some other things during Big 12 Media Day that kind of raised some eyebrows, I was uncomfortable saying, well, is this Kalani versus Brian? Is that what this is? Other people did, and they probably know better than I do, people that cover BYU day to day. So when they started framing it like that, I felt more comfortable doing it. And then talking to some people down there, Monson writes a great piece. It became pretty clear that this was more than Kalani not necessarily being thrilled with certain promises that were not fulfilled. He was also not in a great place with the athletic director. That became pretty clear. But the other thing that's interesting about this is I'm not surprised that they're splitting football off from the other 20 sports. I am surprised that there is an athletic director in the P4 that now has nothing to do with his football program. I don't think that's very common at all. And I know Brian's a basketball guy, okay? He played college basketball. He didn't even go to BYU as an undergrad, which I think a lot of people were surprised about. A lot of people believe that Brian got that job because of his close personal relationships and friendships with Danny Ainge and Ryan Smith. They golf together like every week. He's also credited with, while being Tom Homo's right-hand man, in a way, helping lure Kevin Young away from the Phoenix Suns. They signed A.J. DeBonsa. He becomes the number one pick in the NBA draft. The basketball stuff down there certainly is receiving the support, the funding, and the attention that it needs to at least be in a good place, even though the results have just been fine. I think they've won one NCAA game over the past, or did they go to the Sweet 16 with the Yegor Deming kid? I can't remember, but they didn't win an NCAA game with AJ. But that year is proof of concept for Kevin because AJ goes on to be the number one overall pick, so it's not a huge loss. But if you're an athletic director in today's day and age, in the landscape of college athletics, and you're not involved in your football program, look, I love basketball. I think it's a great game. I think it's a great sport. I love playing it. I love talking about it. I love covering it. This is a football world, and everyone else is just living in it. NFL is the number one sport in our country by far. College football is the number two sport in our country by far. And then we get to the NBA, soccer, golf, hockey, and such, right? So if you're an athletic director at a P4 institution, you want to be as embedded with your football team as much as you possibly can. That's what makes this odd. If Kalani, if you want Kalani to report to a VP, a man named Keith Vorkink, okay, have Kalani report to him. But to remove Brian Santiago from the football program altogether, that's a wild deal. Again, the reporting line, the reporting structures, much ado about nothing. I think a lot of people believe Witt was essentially reporting to Taylor Rando anyway. I can't corroborate that. But another example of the most powerful person in more or less every athletic department is the football coach, not the athletic director. We'll see what Sly has to say about this. We're going to catch a break. We'll bring in Stevenson Sylvester coming up. Don't forget Brian Dunseth, Roxy Bernstein, Devin Dampier. Busy show. Keep it here on ESPN 700. See, all I can think of is Arrested Development. Was it Job?
Job.
The magician, where he plays this song. That is such. Look, Arnett's a little much for me because I do listen to that Smartless podcast, and sometimes he needs to calm down. But that episode of Arrested Development is some of the funniest television that you are ever going to see.
That series in general has some of the funniest television you'll ever see.
The first 2 seasons, they jumped the shark. The last one wasn't good at all. But we move on, and we welcome in a man who has been promoted, and he earned it. Stevenson Sylvester goes from the sidelines to the booth now, and Sly's our guest on a Thursday. Hey, congratulations, buddy. How we doing?
Oh, thanks, buddy, man. Hey, everything's all good, all good. I really, I'm trying to truly understand the difference. I've been doing color in high school. I know it's a lot more with college, but just trying to understand the difference. And I guess I'm not going to really understand that until I go through my first couple games. So we'll see. But I really appreciate it, man. Looking forward to it.
You remember the first time you tried to take a jump shot?
No, actually, I've been shooting jump shots forever, so I don't remember the first one.
All right, bad example then. It's like learning to swing a golf club. It's like learning to tackle correctly. All you need is reps. You'll get there. It just takes reps, dude. That's all.
All right, perfect. I'll get plenty of reps. Good Utah football coming.
So are we talking like Greg Olson style, a Lewis Riddick style? What's the Stevenson Sylvester analyst style?
I don't know. I'm trying to figure out exactly what people actually want to hear or see from me. I got tons of stories, but I know I'm kind of getting old, so I don't want to be the old guy with old stories. But for me, it's more of my experiences and what I do is I try to make sure the listener sees kind of what I'm seeing. So if the listener is a fan of the defense, I'm saying things that the defense should be paying attention to according to what the offense is setting up like, because, I'm more of a defensive-minded guy. But being a defensive-minded guy, I'm also understanding exactly what the offense is trying to do as far as taking advantage of matchups. So I'm kind of the nerd is kind of my technique, I guess is what I say. I'm the football nerd guy. I go deep into details and understanding, talking about splits and the reasons why offense is doing this or doing that. Are they setting something up for later on in the game? I'm more of that guy. So I'm more of the nerd guy. So hopefully it's not too much talking, but I'm more of a detail-oriented nerd, if that makes any sense.
It does. Did you, because I can remember you were one of the guys, because the Sugar Bowl in 2008, I think it was the first bowl game I covered as a media member. And so I can remember interviewing you as a player and thinking, like, if he wants to, when he's done, he could either coach or he could be behind a microphone. Is this something you always maybe saw in your future, even when you were playing?
Not sadly, fortunately, greatly. I don't even know how to really wrap up how this ended up, but yes. I think I've always wanted to be a sports reporter. As a kid, my uncle, I could tell them everything that happened on Sports Center that day. Because back then there was like literally one Sports Center and then they just reran it 3 times throughout the day.
Yeah.
And so I'd watch it early in the morning and I'd watch it in the afternoon. And by the time the evening came, I knew exactly word for word everything that came on. And so I was always in tune to the sports reporters who said stuff during the game because, being football nerd, I was in tune to everything from the players to the people talking about the game, from what information you're getting from Aaron Andrews or the sideline reporters or the color analysts, the play-by-play, understanding exactly the difference between the two of those guys. I was always in tune with that ever since I was a little kid and watching Cowboys and Broncos and Steeler games growing up. And so, just having this come to fruition, being able to cover high school football, now college football, and then a little bit of the pros breakdowns I do locally is actually exactly what I foresaw me trying to do and wanting to do, which is rare. So it's been a blessing for sure.
Well, I'm thrilled you're going to be part of the broadcast team. Love that we have you on the station, of course, home of the Utes for 75 years here on ESPN 700. And if our listeners missed it, Zach Moss will fill in for Sly now, and he's our new sideline reporter, so that's really cool. Bill, of course, will call games. 18th year for Riles as the voice of the Utes. All right, Sly, the defense last year, 110th in the country in stopping the run. ninth in the Big 12, and that was skewed with a couple of games where they got gashed, namely K-State. What gives you confidence that's going to be not just a little bit better, but a lot better this year?
Well, I mean, we can always say it's going to be better, right? They needed some rest in between, understanding the guys' health. There's tons of excuses to give you that 117th ranking last year and why the start of this year is going to be better. But we're not going to be able to see that until they get on the field. What I do like is I think they got a good mix of young and experienced talent all across the board, from the defensive line room, and you got seniors like Lance Holsclaw, Ethan Day, who've been through it, and even Paul Fitzgerald, right? He came from Utah State where he had numbers. These guys are professionals that are able to take that professional preparedness and pass it down to guys like Cash Dillon and Carson Tafusi and Pupu Zapalona and all of these guys who are new coming in and going to be huge factors on the defensive line. And then the same thing, Jonah Hall's been a productive contributor on the defense for, it feels like 4 straight years. He's been here for a minute, and he understands it and understands the detail-orientedness that you need to have in making that happen. And then Trey Reynolds is just an absolute unit. He's just a guy that just gets it done. I absolutely love him, and I absolutely love him having the number 10 this year. So I'm hoping to call his name a lot, during these games, of him making plays, looking good in that number 10. So I'm really, really excited about that. But and then you got young guys on the other side of that, like Elijah Ellis, who's came a long way, right? He's a redshirt sophomore this year. So he's had a redshirt year where he had a little bit of time. And then last year we had a little bit of time. He's actually, supposed to be having some really good growth this year. And so what I've seen him in training camp, he's been electric. The Ellis boys are terrific. One, the pedigree is just there, right? But once they understand stuff, they have that instant confidence to go in and be playmakers. So by the time Elijah Ellis is a senior, expect him to be a major, major contributor, just like his brothers. Jonah was a contributor on this football team, and Luther as well. I think Elijah's going to be one of those guys here in the next couple of years that Utah fans are going to absolutely love. And then the back end, right? I absolutely love having an impact player, right? When I came in here my freshman year in 2006, we had Eric Weddle, who was he's just a guy that you just know is going to be around the ball and something special is going to happen. I think that's Jackson Binney. I think Jackson Binney is just an attractor of the football. It was weird, like when I got to the pros, it's like, why is Troy Polamalu always making plays or always in the right spot to where if he didn't make the play, he was the next guy that's going to make the play? How is that happening? And I just think it's just a personality and knack. And I think that Jackson Binney is one of those guys. And so we're really looking forward to him taking that step this year and being a huge contributor or being that impact player on this defense that it's going to be on all the highlight reels is a Jackson Binney type player. And then Rabbit Evans, coming back from his injury last year, he seems determined and focused. Another senior leadership guy in that secondary. And then I really love how Scooby Davis's development has came these last few years, man. He's just really, evolved, right? And I think he's coming into his own to where, he's a guy you could put out on the island and trust. And so absolutely loved his development. So I think you got a good mix of young and old on all levels that are going to make this defense extremely exciting and competitive. So guys are going to want to be on the field, and when they're on the field, they're going to want to make some stuff happen.
34 sacks a year ago. It was second in the Big 12. John Henry Daly had 11 of those. Who's the best candidate for a double-digit sack year?
Man, I think it's going to be by committee. If they don't get double-digit sacks this year, it's going to be guys that are around 8, 9, multiple sacks. But Lance Holsclaw, to me, is going to be the guy. He's the guy I've been, preseason crowned is going to be that next mayor of Sac Lake City, is because I just love the way that he's prepared and gotten ready. One, he has great stature, right? When you look at him, he has all the ability to be able to be that guy. But then you watch him work. You watch how he prepared. You watch how he prepared in the offseason. And, of course, what everybody's been saying is their strength and conditioning program this offseason was elite. So really want to see that on display. But just his professionalism and the way that he's gone about his offseason and wanting to take that leadership role. I got to say that he's got to be the guy this year. But I think there's going to be a lot of guys who are going to cause havoc in the backfield. And I think it's going to be a sack by committee team here. But Lance is going to be the leader of the pack to me.
So the main reason they were able to be so good a year ago, despite that run defense, was what they were able to do rushing the football. The best rushing attack in the Big 12 and the second best rushing attack in the country. What are your expectations for that dynamic? And do you think they can replicate? I think it's unfair to say, can they do exactly what they did a year ago, but can they do something like it?
I have high expectations for our running game. I actually think that they'll surpass what they did last year. For one, you have all the skill position guys and even better experience in those positions to be able to maximize who we are, right? Wayshawn Parker is just a junior. Daniel Bray was a freshman last year who got tons and tons and tons of conference experience and time, right? Chavez Soto is actually a really, really good contributor as far as, a third, fourth back. And I really think the freshman LaMarcus Bell is going to get a lot of time this year. He's got his balance as a running back. That's what I pay attention to, right? And why we like Zach Moss so much. I think, one, Zach Moss is a shorter, stockier back. So as a defender, it's so hard to bring down. But what makes those guys even hard to bring down is their contact balance. It means once I hit them, they are so quick to get back to zero to be able to accelerate and get through spots after hit. Normally when you hit somebody, you knock them off their spot. That's what they tell you. But with running backs with good contact balance, it's extremely hard to get them down. And I think that's LaMarcus Bell. He has that type of pedigree to be able to have that great contact balance. So looking for great things for him. But even more so, what makes this running game so great is the quarterback position. Not one, but two quarterbacks are extremely good at running the football, which means every single down, from passing downs to rushing downs to third down and 15, fourth down and long, you have to be aware of the run to be an actual threat. You can't just be like, okay, I'm going to play prevent defense because there's no way they're going to run the ball and be satisfied, because the way that Dan Pierre and Bert Ficklin can run the ball, getting out of the pocket and either throwing or running, puts the defense on edge. So I just think that that's going to be extremely dynamic in this offense, and I expect them, because of the experience of last year, to be better this year than they were last year. So very, very excited about the rushing attack coming from Utah.
12th in passing, Sly, a year ago. It's interesting. Baylor was 1, TCU was 2. BYU was actually 10th, and Utah was 12th. Of course, both BYU and Utah lead rushing attack a year ago, but 12th passing yards per game in the conference last year. What are you expecting this year?
Well, I'm expecting to be better than 12th. And again, this all goes off of how good your running game is. So, we were BYU and Utah were both 1 and 2 in rushing, right? Of course, their passing is going to suffer, right? It's very hard to be 1 and 2 in rushing and then also 2, 3, and 4 in passing. That's not balanced, right? It's not going to happen like that. If you have something like that where you're leading in rushing and leading in passing, you better be undefeated, and you better be beating teams by 20 plus points, because if you're able to put up, that's like putting up an average of 500 yards per game is what that would equate to if you have both good in both of those. But one, I absolutely love the weapons that we have. We've talked about it a lot between all the receivers and tight ends and athletes, from Daniel Bray to Hunter Andrews to Kyrie Scholes, Creed Whittemore, Ricky Johnson, Brandon Pagan, all these guys, Tobias Mayweather, Larry Simmons. We have a great room of skilled position guys that will maximize the passing if we need to pass, right? If the defense gets too aggressive and wants to stop the run, we're going to be getting a lot of one-on-one coverage on the back end, or zones with a lot of holes in it on the back end because somebody's biting the cheese. And, and what I absolutely loved about Devin last year was he throws, to me, he threw better on the run than in the pocket. Like, I loved him getting out of the pocket, and he throws an accurate ball on the run, which is even harder, but that is what his skill set is. So if you're threatening from him from running, and he's a great passer when he's getting out of the pocket. Man, we're just going to have such a field day on defenses. It's getting me so excited, man. So I can't wait to watch this game next week and how it'll lead to SEC opponent the week after, and then on the conference play a couple weeks after that, man. So I just think this team is set and ready to go for this year.
So last year, Texas Tech finished second in rushing, and they were the third best passing team. They led the conference in yards per game and points per game, and they went undefeated and won the league. If what you're saying comes to fruition and Utah remains the best rushing team, and let's call them a top 5 to 7 passing team, that will put them squarely in the mix to win the Big 12.
Yeah, but you see what I said right there?
Yeah.
I said, like, if you're up and you're top 5 in both rushing and passing, you better go undefeated, right? What did Texas Tech do last year, right? They were in the top 5, as you just explained, in all of those, and their only loss was to Arizona State, which they were almost undefeated. And so and they were beating teams by 20-plus points in each matchup. That's what it takes. If you want to be able to be those top 3, those have to match up in that way, because they were beating teams by so many points that they were running the ball later in the football game, and they got good rushing numbers. So they had great balance on that team by beating teams by 20-plus points, which made that happen. And so I'm really, really excited. But, yes, I think that's literally the framework, right? If you run the ball effectively or you pass the ball effectively, you'll be able to have those other intangibles to get things done, man. And for me, Utah football is establishing physicality, which is what Morgan Scalley wants to do, offensive side and defensive side of the ball. So running the football is going to be paramount with this team. And we have the ultimate weapons to make that happen, from the running backs to the quarterbacks to all of our athletes, as far as Hunter Andrews, Daniel Bray, to make our rush attack one of the best, if not the best, in the country.
Of course, Sly, part of the rushing attack a year ago was the offensive line. And I know it's been a hot-button topic throughout the course of spring and fall camp, but that's understandable because you're replacing 2 first-round tackles and 5 NFL players. So with your assertion that you think they're not just going to be as good as they were a year ago, maybe better, tell our listeners what your opinion is of that unit that's stepping in for the dominant unit we saw a year ago.
Yeah, man, it's going to be hard to replicate what happened last year. When you have 2 first-round draft picks and all 5 are on NFL squads now, it is extremely hard to be like, we're going to be better than last year. I know that's what Wayshawn Parker said, but let's wait to make that happen. But I'm not worried about this offensive line. One, they got a great coach, right? Jordan Gross, even as a player, he was very technical, which means he has the coaching gene in him to get people to understand exactly what it takes to be successful. And he's been doing it, and now he's been able to do it at the college level, and he has a relationship with his guys to make that happen. And I've been able to watch him coach, and the effects that he has, and the retention and respect that he has from his offensive line is only proven that it's going to make success. But when talking with him, he just has a good guy. Zaraway Williams is probably the most athletic, offensive lineman they have. He's big, he's fast. What Jordan Gross kind of comp him to is a Trent Williams type of guy. You get him to have that type of nastiness. We all know how athletic Trent Williams is. If Zaraway Williams could possibly be that type of guy, that's just doing some amazing things, man. And so they're also getting some great production out of Ike Garcia now. It's been a struggle for him the last couple of years, but he's been able to make some strides here in this offseason. So being with Jordan Gross was also beneficial for him. He's the Corner Canyon 4 or 5-star offensive lineman that came to us, and is going to be great production. And then you have Keith Olson, who's just been slow and steady and been in this program forever, as long as Alex Harrison too. Alex Harrison he's your grandpa, right? He's the guy that just knows all and can get everybody lined up, and he's extremely professional, man. So and I love this. Salta Moyai is also going to be your starting guard this year. He's a guy who's transferred over from defense, but been playing a lot of offensive reps these last couple years, and he has that defensive nasty mentality, which is what you want from your old guard. He's just a freaking big body, extremely hard to get around and physical, and so I think the biggest thing for these guys is, which I can't say right now, is how well do they work together. offensive line is all about how well am I able to work with that guy to my left and my right and communicate with them and do that. And, that's just nothing that we're going to be able to determine until we actually get to play against an opponent, man. But from what I've seen in training camp, I've been very impressed and happy with the progression of the offensive line. And so now it's all about putting it on tape and going out there and doing it and stop talking about it.
Slide, take us behind the scenes in fall camp from a player's perspective. Now that we are 1 week away, what changes now? Okay, because now we're in game install. Now we're game planning. Now we're watching tape. Now we're preparing for an opponent. From a player's perspective, what's the final week like of fall camp?
It's preparation. Right now, it's all about creating routine, right? Any athlete or any person who deems themselves successful is all about routine. I have a good routine. I get up in the morning, I brush my teeth, I make the bed, I go work out, yada, yada, yada. Throughout the day, I have my coffee, whatever. I have a routine that promotes success. Right now, they're establishing their routine that's going to promote their success throughout the season, right? So right now, it's whatever training camp, whatever they want to call them. It's not even training camp right now. It is game week. And that starts 2 weeks before the first game of the season is how we used to do it. And so it's just an extra amount of time to build your regimen, build your routine, understand how warm-ups are going to go, right? They're going to do walkthroughs of, okay, this is how we do our Ute walk into the stadium. Okay, this is how we go and warm up. This is the warm-up routine we're going to do. This is how we'll take the field. This is how the captains will come out, and then the rest of the team comes out of the They practice all of that right now is what they're practicing, right, in preparation. This is what Monday looks like. This is what Tuesday looks like. This is what that practice will look like. It'll be 18 periods. It'll be 22 periods. It'll be tackle. It'll be thud. It'll be this. This is what you have to focus on. This is how you have to research film. This is what you have to do on your own. They're preparing all of their routine right now for the season to get ready for success. So next week and the week after, it's going to be like, I already know what I'm doing. I'm not guessing or asking anybody or nothing's fresh by the time they start preparing for Arkansas.
Sly, you're the man. Appreciate the time. Congrats again on the promotion. Excited to hear you on the call. Have an excellent week, and we'll chat soon.
Thanks, man. Appreciate you guys.
All right, Stevenson Sylvester, one of the best linebackers in Utah football history, a Super Bowl winner, and now the color analyst on our Ute broadcast that you can hear starting next Thursday when Idaho is in town. So what do you know? It's time to start thinking about football. And we're only a few weeks away from the best time of the year, and now's the time to prep your field. Make sure you're using IFA Step 3 for the weeks ahead. When the weather is still hot, but as the dog days of summer give way to fall, it's time to start thinking about Step 4, our fall and winter lawn fertilizer. Either way, you can find out more by visiting ifa.coop online. All right, here's the deal. Some of you don't like soccer. I'm aware. For those of you that do, or if you're listening and you know that you have a friend that likes soccer and is following Real Salt Lake, tell them to get in front of a radio. Brian Dunseth is going to join us coming up next. A come to Jesus conversation with Dunny right here on ESPN 700. All right, Roxy Bernstein's going to join us coming up in just a little bit from ESPN, our old buddy from the Pac-12 Network. Devin Dampier, Utah quarterback, stopped by to chat with Sean today. We're going to bring that back around. We'll call that about an hour from now. Sports Court with our friends from Handy and Handy, but we're going to take a little break from college football. I've been teasing it all show. I know some of you aren't into soccer. That's fine. Those of you that are, or if you know people that are, get them to a radio right now because it's time to have a very honest conversation, salient even, if you will, with Brian Dunseth about the current state of Real Salt Lake. Hello, Brian. How are you, bud?
Who's Brian?
I know.
Hey, you got to tell Rox I said what's up, man. We did a Jordan Morris Stanford University college game for the Pac-12 Network years ago. And if I'm not mistaken, it was one of Roxy's very first soccer games that he called. So what an incredible human being.
It's an excellent story, Brian. I like that. I don't know why. I don't think I've ever called you Brian in 25 years of knowing you, Donnie. It's an odd thing.
Yeah, I don't think so.
All right.
I don't think so either.
Okay, here's the deal. This is reaching a point where if I'm an RSL fan, I'm beyond frustrated, and I totally understand the perspective of the fan who watched a really good team a few years ago be broken down in the name of moving Andres Gomez on for a fee, and that team never recovered. Chicho did some Chicho things, and then boom, blown up. The start of this season, you and I were debating whether or not this is a top 4 team in MLS or the Western Conference that could potentially maybe lift a trophy, which they have not done since 2009. Xavier Gozo lives in South London now, and they have not won an MLS match since May 16th, which was before the World Cup. And they just went down to Colorado and got their asses kicked by León in the quarterfinal. The floor is yours, man. What's going on?
Yeah, I mean, there's so many ways to unravel this. Let's start from the fan perception. The fan perception, to your point, when you talk about Jefferson Savarino, Albert Rusnak, Damir Krylak, you talked about Andres Gomez, you talked about Chicho. We could probably throw Anderson Julio, Matt Crooks into that conversation as well. I'm probably missing a couple data points. And there becomes a certain amount of frustration that, once again, the idea of becoming, I don't know if contender is the right word. I definitely had them as a 4 through 6 type of prediction at the start of the season with the additions that were made, that this was going to be a team that could compete on a lot of fronts. Not all fronts, because the reality is that, they're not spending monopoly money in the nuclear arms race that is Major League Soccer, and times have changed. And when you think about it and you break it down, when you go from Deloy Hansen to the sale to David Blitzer to Ryan Smith being involved to him divesting of his ownership and then going to Miller Sports and Entertainment and then switching that kind of power dynamic, there's been a lot of turbulence behind the scenes. And on top of that, players come, players go. The DNA and the fabric of the club, the Real Salt Lake Till I Die phenomenon across the league. All of these things can be positive, but also there can be negatives. So from a perception standpoint, there's a conversation. In my world that I work in for Apple TV and for MLS, I get to be around a lot of clubs. And I get to have a lot of really fascinating conversations from owners to CEOs, the presidents, the sporting directors, to general managers. And one of the biggest challenges right now in this final phase of this calendar that we're seeing in Major League Soccer that then turns into the sprint season that then aligns with the international calendar starting in the summer of 27 is there's a lot of different theories. There's a lot of different approaches. And there's a lot of conversation with expansion coming to a screeching halt, how this evolution of ownership models look. And right now, listen, I think it's not naive to understand that there's a certain way that people look at ownership groups, and whether we're talking about the Jazz or we're talking about the Mammoth or we're talking about Real Salt Lake, there's going to be a tribalism that comes along with this unsatiable urge that we have to win and we want to win. And now in MLS, that comes along with this weird dichotomy of a conversation about spending certain amounts of money just to keep you in the conversation of competing, not necessarily winning. So there's a lot of ways to make the bacon, but the reality is, when you have a couple people coming out publicly and talking about Xavier Argoso is not going anywhere until January 1st, and then right before the Tigres game, him being pulled and that deal effectively going through, there's a couple things that happen. And number one, it's losing an incredible talent that a lot of people align with, because Xavier Argoso on the field, off the field, is a tremendous human being, a tremendous talent, and just a grade A1 personality of a human being. So that one, that creates a trickle-down effect where not only are you losing that talent on the field, you're losing that talent off the field from a fan base, but then it creates kind of this weird power vacuum that's happening inside the locker room. And again, I'm coming from a perception standpoint. I'm not coming from a knowledge standpoint of obviously being on the team and being inside the locker room. But the moment that Gozo leaves, right now Zach Booth is the only one that's shown that he has similar traits to play in that position. He's injured. Saba Lobjanidze, he's not cut out for it based on what we saw the other night. Dominic Marchuk has had moments of opportunity since the day that he walked through the door. That's been a failure, replacing Andres Gomez. And now you're talking about a team that can't figure out collectively how to compete at a level that's satisfactory to walking away with points. I mean, they did so against Tigres, Atlante, and FC Juarez, but now I'm dumbfounded at just watching the commitment and the competitiveness, not the tactics, not the efficiency. And I'll tell you what, as a team and as a player, when there's questions about the combativeness and the physicality, that for me is like the worst shot that you can take at a professional athlete.
Well, excuse me, I want to follow up from the perspective of a player. And Dunny played in MLS for a decade. He was the captain of the U.S. men's national team, the Olympic side of things. So you can kind of help us understand the mentality. Like if you're Diego Luna and you were on the team with Chicho and Andres and all these other guys, and you were part of a unit that was really ticking and scoring goals and winning games, and then some of your most talented teammates are snatched away from you, and you're Diego Luna this year, where there are rumors about, are you going to be on the move? And rumors about, are you going to be on the national team? And that didn't work out. And then your club takes away another really, really good teammate without reinforcements coming in. Like I would imagine, Dunny, from a player's perspective, you're just kind of like, what exactly are we doing here? What's the goal? What are we trying to accomplish?
Yeah, I mean, listen, I've been on teams where the best player was traded and or sold. And the immediacy of that is, well, how are you replacing him? Who are you replacing him with? When are you replacing him? Because the reality is that the older guys, the young guys, they're young, they're dumb, they're naive, they're happy to be there, they're competitive. But it's almost like, when you're 20 to 25, that you still got a lot of good years left. The older guys look at themselves and they say, hold on a second. Wait, now, are we throwing the baby and the bathwater out at the same time by allowing this deal to go through? Because if you don't, to your point, replace somebody immediately, the guys are going to be like, well, I mean, if you guys are going to give up, then are we going to be able to give up? And there's a point of pride and professionalism that somewhere gets caught in this gray area. Again, it's always a power vacuum. Whether you talk about leadership or, for example, and I want to be very, very clear. By selling Andres Gomez, if you don't sell Andres Gomez the time in which you sold him, Xavier Argozo's opportunity and his kind of path to success doesn't exist right now. The way that he developed and the speed in which he developed and the opportunities he was given, that doesn't exist because two things happen. One, Andres Gomez is sold. Dominic Marchuk is brought in to replace him. And if Marchuk plays out of his skin and is anywhere close to Andres Gomez, Xavier Goso is looking at very minimal minutes with very minimal opportunities. But because because Marchuk doesn't play well, Gozo gets his chance, he grabs hold of it with two hands, and he runs away with it. So it really is sliding doors. So the big question now is, who's next? But in the meantime, that who's next question doesn't matter unless these guys have the pride to put in the performances, to compete and to execute. And if you don't have that, then there's only one guy that suffers, and that's Pablo Mastroianni, because he'll be the first out the door. So in the meantime, the challenge is very simple for this group. Figure it out. Simply figure it out, because right now is not good enough. It's not good enough for anybody. And listen, they're not the only ones. I mean, Seattle Sounders is in a horrible, horrible run of form, but that's based on injury. They've lost more than one player. They've lost, this year, they've got the most devastating injuries that you've seen across the board collectively. And for Real Salt Lake, it's just really one player. So how do you get yourself back on track? And the question is it just about the players? Is it collectively with the coaching staff? And ultimately, what can leadership and ownership do to help alleviate the pressure that's on this group right now and get some fresh legs and some fresh bodies and a different, set of ideas through the door as quickly as possible?
And for what it's worth, I just want to say out loud, if this comes back to Pablo, I think it's incredibly unfair, because when he's had his full complement and a team with talented players, he has performed well. Look, the coach always gets too much blame for results and never gets enough credit when they're going well. I get it. Certainly in leagues where players are paid a little bit differently and contracts are guaranteed for players and not for coaches, it's why college football coaches have buyouts of like $70 million. But this should not come back down on Pablo. I just want your thoughts on that.
Yeah, it does. It always will be. Pablo's not naive to it. You and I aren't naive to it. I've played for some great coaches that deserved more time. I've played for some horrible coaches that didn't deserve the job in the first place. But I think you would struggle if very quietly we were able to have a conversation with this group of players and ask, where does the fault lie? I think 0 to none would say the fault lies on Pablo. This is a collective effort. And right now, these guys got to stand up. They got to stand up and put an account for themselves, because and again, watching the post game and calling the game against Leon on Tuesday, being in Denver, I jumped the charter back with the team and kind of was around the vibe. This group, when Pablo's asking in his post game, I need warriors. I need guys, I need guys to get in and battle. Everything that I saw against Leon, it wasn't tactics. It wasn't substitutions. Leon just wanted it more. They wanted it from the opening whistle. They were combative. They knew how to employ the dark arts. They knew how to kick, cajole, push. How many times did Cambindo, the striker that scored 2 goals, put Lucas Engel or put Philip Quinton on their butts? There was such a naive feel to the game, the way that RSL was lacking. And it wasn't everybody. I thought Solons and Guy Lavogui in particular threw in a great shift, and you could feel a sense of urgency. But it's got to be the collective. And they can't be 3 games out of winning 2 games against Liga MX side and pushing Tigres to penalties to then be what felt like such an apathetic performance and approach to a game where they just didn't want it as bad. At least that was optically. They just didn't want it as bad as Leon wanted it. And if Leon's willing to beat Necaxa, to beat Monterrey, and get on that plane and fly all the way to Denver, then I have 0 time for anybody complaining about Real Salt Lake having to play at altitude in Colorado and not be able to play at home. I got no time for that concert talk whatsoever.
The Noah Kahn game, Dunny. It's going to go down in history as the Noah Kahn game.
Oh, I hope it's not even a footnote or a reference. I hope, if it is, I hope they all recognize that hey, man, that was the moment that we decided enough's enough, and we're going to take charge of the rest of our season. Because, hey, by the way, even if the coach does get changed, God forbid that does happen, there's going to be plenty of this is the mindset of a professional athlete. Oh, it wasn't my fault. Well, the reality is that even when it's not your fault, I got traded twice when it wasn't my fault. I was super happy with where I was living. But by the way, the team sucked. We didn't make the playoffs. And I was one of the guys that got moved on because that's just the nature of the business. So if you like the city of Salt Lake, if you're happy where your kids go to school, if you love your house, and all of these things off the field are important to you, get your butt in gear and start figuring this out, because you're at jeopardy as that December window rolls around, that you might get the heads up that your services are no longer needed.
And also, Dunny, I would imagine, and look, I would probably bring up the John Ellinger example that didn't work out, but I know how much you guys loved John and wanted him to succeed, and I did too. Still to this day, one of the kindest, nicest men that I've met in my 24 years now around MLS. But from a player's perspective, is their motivation? Because I do feel like Pablo's players they care about him very much, and they'd like to continue to play for him. But if he's really on the hot seat at this point, is that a point of motivation for players to get their butts in gear?
Yeah, let me make it very, very clear, Spence. I don't think Pablo's on the hot seat, nor do I believe he should be on the hot seat. Is
that our weekly Dunny?
Needs to be.
No, you're back. You're good.
I think this is not a Pablo problem. I think this is something that needs to take an account for across the board. And every dark corner needs to be exposed to figure out internally the right move and what's next. Because there are solutions, and this isn't light everything on fire and just tell you what's wrong. There's a lot of good people that are working their tails off day and night to find the right solutions. But again, it starts and ends with the players that, despite everything else that's happening, any type of collateral damage that might be mythical or realistic, it still comes down to them to have the pride of purpose and performance to go out and execute. You shouldn't need anybody, anything, to get you hyped to play professional soccer. There should be no bulletin board material. You shouldn't need an incredible pregame speech from Pablo. At this level, every single player, if you're injured, you are out. If you are hurt, you play. That's it. When Pablo's talking about, I need warriors, listen, Spence, you saw me play. I might have been barely above average, but I'd kill myself for a manager. And if I would have played for Pablo, I would have left everything on the field. Every ounce of energy that I had, I would have given to that guy, because Pablo's the guy that you want to play for. He's got the mentality, the approach, the tactics, the execution. He and his staff are the types of people that I would have wanted to play for in my career. And that doesn't happen too often. So again, the challenge is for the players. While everything else is noise, that has to be the focus. But as I say that, I'm not naive in understanding that from a bigger picture, the things that need to be executable have to start falling in place sooner rather than later.
So it brings us into the space, Dunny, because you had referenced Seattle and all their injuries, but RSL, in addition to moving Gozo on, they've lost Zach Booth, who was supposed to be his replacement. They're without their best center back, Justin Glad. Sergei Solins, who did sign a contract extension, is the only option up front. Olatunji is not good at this. It's not working, okay? We've got some issues with athleticism in the midfield. So from my vantage point, RSL needs a striker, a midfielder, and a center back, and they need it now. And there are 5 days before this window closes. Any insight as to whether or not Pablo's actually going to have some reinforcements on the way?
Yeah, a wrong person to ask, because I would agree with you. Those were the three positions that I thought. and I think I said it over on KMYU with you, talking Real, that was before Gozo moved on to Crystal Palace. Because here's the ugly truth. I mean, Olatunji, I believe, had 8 Champions League goals for Sparta Prague and was slated to be the starter. And that eye injury, that horrific eye injury 2 days before the start of the season, had he not had that, who knows what the direction was going to look like. And he's, for whatever reason, whether they're starts or substitution patterns, the frequency of confidence and then the execution of finishing right now, they're just not aligned. The midfield, there's just, and it was great to see Emeka Anelli back training today, because it's been far too long to see his range of athleticism in that midfield. Moving on from Ojeda meant that Spearings and Caliscan were going to be the starters. There's just not enough athleticism for me, and I said this to you publicly and privately months ago. And then the moment that Justin Glad, the reality of his injury is as bad as it is, that's kept him out for the better part of, 3 months now, you got to figure out a way to reinforce, or you got to fast track Arias and Kobe Henry back in the mix, because right now the back three of Engel, Quinton, and Yedlin, they looked far off the pace in this game. And I thought, even if you go back to the FC Dallas game at home, it was comical how horrific the defending was in that first half. Back to a 3-3 scoreline. The Orlando game I throw out just because the rotation and the focus was going to be on Leon. That makes that performance that much more frustrating to watch in real time. So the window, listen, it's been open for a long time. And the perception from the outside looking in, and I'll say this across the board, is you had the longest time to get players in and adapt them to whatever this schedule was looking like. And you had about 14 games on the backside. Usually you had 6 to 8 games available for players because of signatures, paperwork, permits, travel, getting everybody settled on and off the field, kids in school, houses purchased, cars purchased, all those things. You lost that window. So if you're going to bring a guy in, you better hope he doesn't need time to adapt. And you also got to think about the complexity of now identifying players from certain countries that aren't going to be fast-tracked on paperwork because their countries have been flagged because of the whole political aspect. So there's challenges across the board. So we'll see how efficient Real Salt Lake can be to sort out those challenges.
All right, before I set you loose, RSL is on 28 points, as is Colorado, Portland, and Minnesota. San Diego, and they've been better as of late. They're at 27. So even a playoff berth at this point is far from a guarantee. Last question for you. The rest of the year for RSL, in your opinion, is going to look like what?
Right now, not be a playoff team. Not with the form that they find themselves in, until they can figure out collectively on the field how to manufacture momentum in their favor, how they can get past the idea of whoever's the weak link that'll let them down, however they can get past the psychology of, man, we gave up those late goals, is this going to haunt us again? It's a full mental reset that's needed right now. And again, this is where the leadership group has to really step up and prove that they are who we projected them to be at the start of the season, and not let one player's departure uproot what was potentially a really strong one in the Western Conference.
Okay, Brian, thank you for your time today.
Appreciate you, Spencey.
Yeah, good stuff, Dunny. Be well. We'll chat soon, okay?
Okay, sounds good, dude.
All right, Brian Dunseth. I told you I went and recorded our TV program that we do every week called Talking Real earlier. And, you know, Dunny's got a lot of love for RSL. He is a broadcaster that does national games. He's Turner's best analyst on their World Cup coverage. But at his heart, he is an RSL fan. He wants to see the club do well. He was one of our original players. He's lived here for 20, 25 years now. And I don't know that I've ever seen him as heated up as he was earlier. Pablo needs players. It's getting actually ridiculous that the two really good teams Pablo has had, ownership has elected to move on some of his key pieces in exchange for a nice sum of money. And a lot of the signings that they elected to execute have not worked out. You have 5 days left. This team they were the third best team in the West. And now they're all the way down to 8. And the outlook right now is not good. So something has to happen. And if this comes back to Pablo, that is unequivocally unfair. And I'll leave it there. All right. Want to let you know that it is time to start thinking about football. And we're only a few weeks away from the best time of the year. Now's the time to prep your field. Make sure you're using IFA Step 3 for the weeks ahead when the weather is still hot. But as the dog days of summer give way to fall, it's time to start thinking about Step 4, our fall and winter lawn fertilizer. Either way, you can find more online at ifa.coop. ifa.coop. Check them out. All right, I'll catch a break. Roxy Bernstein coming up next. Devin Dampier with Sean O'Connell at 4. We'll get to Sports Court. We'll say goodnight at 6 o'clock right here on ESPN 700. left in our break. It's potentially the strangest habit I have as a radio host. I do it almost every day. Should know better by now. Roxy Bernstein is a true professional. He joins the program on a Thursday. What's up, man? How are you?
That is so not true that I'm a true professional.
Oh,
you
come
know me
on.
better than that.
Do you have any odd quirks like me stuffing my mouth with food right before I'm supposed to go back on air?
I don't. I early on maybe I did that, but now it's like I'm too self-conscious and aware to do that. I might take a swig of water right before we come back from break. But like early on, like I was doing minor league baseball, the only time I had to eat was like between innings. So I'm trying to scarf something down so I'm not keeling over from starvation, doing minor league baseball. But, we all did things from time to time, right? Just to the things that we probably shouldn't do when we're on the air, but we do it.
The biggest point of anxiety doing this show, because our segments are so long, is when I come back from a break and I realize that I have to urinate horribly. And I have to wait like 25 or 30 minutes before I can. Have you ever ran into that?
Well, this is probably like too much inside baseball, pulling back the curtain, probably too much. But when I'm doing, major league games, I can't get up and go to the bathroom. There's just not enough time like during the breaks. So I try to time it every game that I will go to the restroom probably about 7 or 8 minutes before first pitch or before we come on air. That way I try to not have to go to the bathroom in game. It's very rare that it's happened where I have to go and maybe my partner will cover me for a pitch or two, but it's as we're getting older, Spence, it might be a little bit more difficult to do that.
Oh, dear. I don't even want to think about that just yet. Well, look, man, first of all, how you been, dude? What's been going on with you? It's always fun to catch up.
Oh, boy. What have I been up to? Daughter's back in college, beginning year 2. Son's a junior in high school, so they're off and rolling. I'm off and rolling with the college football season starting tomorrow night for me. Been doing Major League Baseball. I've seen Rush a handful of times already this summer in this R50 tour. That's my life right now in a nutshell.
There you go. Love it. Sounds good to be Roxy Bernstein, the Holy what do they call it? The Holy Trinity? Rush?
Holy Triumphant.
Holy
yeah.
Triumphant. That's right. Good stuff. All right, look.
By the way, if you get the chance to see the new drummer, she is incredible. Annika Niles.
Oh.
Unbelievable, Spence. Look, you're talking about the most fickle fan base maybe in all of music, and you're stepping into the biggest shoes potentially in the history of rock and roll with arguably the greatest drummer we've ever seen. To step into Neil Peart's shoes and fill that role, she has been phenomenal, and she has enhanced this band. It's great to watch. She is terrific.
That's a good point. You're not filling in for some throwaway drummer.
No.
Potentially the greatest of all time, and go ahead and take that gig. That's a good point.
Yes, and I'm not saying that like she's like Wally Pipping Neil Peart, and God rest his soul, the great Neil Peart who passed away, about 5 years ago now. But, it's a fickle fan base that was skeptical. Okay, who's this woman coming in? And the joke is, Spence, that she's the only woman who's willingly ever gone to a Rush concert.
No. That's actually good. I think I've been to maybe 3 or 4. Excellent live show for anyone who's never been. But let's. I want to start with kind of an interesting story that's permeated through our market, and it took an interesting twist today. And it underscores, Roxy, that in college football, the most powerful person in the athletic department is the football coach, not the athletic director. And Kalani Sitake had a chance to take the Penn State job. This was not Southeast Dakota State, all due respect. This was Penn State. He said no because he was given promises about things he would receive at BYU, and even if he stayed. And even Kalani himself, he gave an interview a couple of weeks ago where he basically said, after talking to Penn State, I now know what the best programs in the country have at their disposal. I asked for those things in order to stay. And for whatever reason, the promises have not been fulfilled. It turned into this whole Brian Santiago just took over for Tom Holmoe, and Tom did an unbelievable job down there for 20 years. And Brian's hire was kind of met with a little bit of an eyebrow raise because he is a basketball guy, and a lot of people believe he got that job because he's really good friends with the Ryan Smiths of the world and the Danny Ainges of the world. Well, it was announced today that BYU shook up its athletic department, splitting football off from the other 20 sports. And Kalani now reports to a university VP, not Brian Santiago. And Brian Santiago is going to oversee the remaining programs, but the word is he's going to have nothing to do with the football program. And this comes off the heels of I think it was a Brett McMurphy tweet that his BYU source said this is the beginning of a process that will end with us having to choose between those two. And I don't have to tell you who they're going to choose.
And it's unfortunately becoming public now. You can speculate the friction in the relationship between Kalani and Brian Santiago. And I know both men, and I think the world of both men. I think they're both terrific. And as you know, Tom Homo and I are very close and have been for a long time. But Brian has a tough job to succeed him as the athletic director at BYU. But this is not unprecedented, Spence, in the landscape of college football now. We see these hierarchy and management situations set up around college athletics. For example, my alma mater, Cal, right? Ron Rivera is the general manager / athletic director for football. He reports directly to the chancellor of the University of California. And the co-athletic directors that Cal has when they separated from Jim Knowlton, who was the previous AD, they have nothing to do with football. Ron Rivera runs football. When they were going through the search to hire their new football coach, Ron Rivera led the charge to hire Tosh Lupoy. The co-ADs had nothing to do with it. They oversee. Now, Cal also has, 30 sports that fall under the umbrella of the co-athletic directors. There's a lot to navigate through right there. And then reports are they may be hiring a general manager to oversee basketball, and that's not going to fall under their umbrella. Stanford's doing the same thing, Spence, with Andrew Luck. Andrew Luck runs Stanford football. He hired Tavita Pritchard, their new football coach. And they had the former AD who went out. They've hired a new athletic director at Stanford. I think he might have some input into football, but it's Andrew Luck's baby. And Andrew Luck has a direct line to the president of Stanford. So it's not unprecedented what BYU is doing. This is the business of college football now, where schools have general managers. They have directors of player personnel. It is a very different landscape now than it was 5 years ago. And I anticipate 5 years from now having another significant change in the way college football is run.
Yeah, and look, the issue with this, because, during fall camp, the last thing you want is to turn on sports talk radio in your market and hear someone like me talking about the issues between the coach and the AD. That's never good news. It wasn't good news last December when it was Witt and Mark Harlan. It's not good news that BYU's 9 days away from their first game. And this is the thing that everybody is talking about. Like, this is horrible timing for a team that a lot of people, Roxy, think can actually win the Big 12 this year.
And look, it's very possible. Texas Tech, who is the reigning Big 12 champion from beating BYU in the championship game last year. But there is a lot of talent with this BYU team coming back, and that's what should be talked about. I mean, a team that had won 12 games last year, on the verge of the college football playoff, and how good they've been the last couple of years under Kalani Sitake, and why it was critical for BYU to keep him and not let him go, and the loyalty that he showed to want to stay at BYU. But you have a quarterback who's entrenched that should be getting probably talked about a little bit more with Bo Bachmeier. I think that when you look at, for example, the transfer portal and how they benefited from it, and bringing in a guy like Kedu Uluwabe, that's where the conversation should be, Spence. Unfortunately, I don't think it necessarily becomes a distraction for the players, right? They kind of tune that stuff out. But I guarantee you it's going to be a distraction for Kalani Sitake. He's got to deal with this, and it's going to be front and center. When they get asked questions from the media, it's going to come up. When he sits in these television production meetings with gas bags like me, right, as we're getting ready for a BYU football game, I guarantee you that question's going to come up. And how's the relationship with Brian Santiago and the athletic director? Because now it's become so public. And that's the only thing I worry about from that perspective, it's not going to bother the players, Spence. They're young. They can just turn their heads. But Kalani Sitake's going to have to deal with this, and it's going to be unfortunate. Brian Santiago, anytime there's a microphone in front of him, or if he comes on your show, right? What are you going to ask him about? This is what's going to be discussed, unfortunately.
Yeah, and hopefully for BYU and for Kalani, they can at least keep the players insulated. But in this day and age, Roxy, that's just impossible. I mean, even Quinn Snyder, who he used to come on my show every week when I was over at the Jazz station, he would tell the story of like it's halftime, and he goes in the locker room, and all of his players who are pros and grown-ups have their phone in their face, and he has to ask them to listen to what he has to say. From a player's perspective, I guess if we could spin this in a way that could be positive, maybe it's galvanizing. Maybe the players see all this and it's like, wait, if you're not going to take care of our head coach, we're going to do what we can to make sure that we're proving you wrong and we're the ones that are actually the valuable assets.
And there's a lot of talent back in that locker room. That was part of a terrific team last year. And it's clear that they're embedded 100% behind Kalani Sitake. They love their coach. They want to play for him. And unfortunately, look, you and I, we can speculate how the relationship is, and it's been documented, I guess, by some people, the friction between Brian Santiago and Kalani. But we don't really know the inner workings of it, right? Okay, these promises were technically made. And look, this could alleviate the situation where there is somebody else that's going to oversee football. And if there is an issue between the two of them, that whoever is in charge of football, and the vice president of the university now appears to be, that could help the situation and make it easier and more functional for Kalani to operate at BYU. But it also could free up Brian, and as you alluded to, he's a big basketball guy, which I've known, and how intricate he's involved with that program and the success that they've had recently. Also, it could free him up to do other responsibilities, and it could be a benefit to everybody involved down there that, all right, this cloud that's hanging over the program could be shoved away and people could just focus on their task at hand.
Yeah, well said, because I think they have a chance to be really good this year. And if it goes south, I mean, you know the deal. Results create narratives. People believe like, hey, you're creating a media narrative. No, results will create the narrative. If they go win 12 games, if they go potentially win the Big 12 and crack the CFP, then the narrative will change. If they struggle, people will wonder if this distraction is the thing that got loose, you know?
Winning is the best deodorant, right? That's what people keep coming back to, as you pointed out. You win football games, that's all that matters at the end of the day. And how successful BYU has been since joining the Big 12, right? In 2023, BYU has the most wins of any team in the league during that span. They've won 28 games in league since they've entered the Big 12. And that's Texas Tech, Iowa State, who's had great runs recently. TCU, of course, under Sonny Dykes a number of years ago, went to the championship game. BYU's got the most wins in the Big 12 during their time in this league. And that's, I think, something that can't be overlooked either.
So conversely, it's been drama-free up in Salt Lake after a very dramatic offseason that led Kyle Whittingham to Ann Arbor and Morgan Scalley sliding over a seat. They're replacing a lot, namely 5 offensive linemen, 2 tackles that were taken in the first round of the NFL draft. They were the best rushing team in the Big 12 last year, second best rushing team in the country. They get both their quarterbacks back, which was huge. They get their running back back, which was huge. And now we wait and see what this is going to look like. I'm more curious than confident. I have never seen this group of people do the things they're about to do because they have never done them before. I've known Morgan forever. I know you have too, and I think he's up to the task. Prediction market stuff, sportsbook stuff, around 8 wins, 8.5 wins. I can see 8, 9 wins on the schedule without seeing what it looks like right away. I don't know that I'll go beyond that. But you know the program, you know the market, you know Morgan. What do you think we're going to see from Utah football this year?
Yeah, I'm the same as you. I'm the wait and see. And he was a terrific defensive coordinator, but he's moving to the big whistle now, right? He's got the big corner office as opposed to being adjacent to it. And that's a huge adjustment. And he's not alone in that regard. And you look around the country and some of the coaches that are doing it for the first time, you don't really know how they're going to handle it in that role because they've never technically had to do it in this role. Now, Morgan has had a lot of experience, and Witt gave him a lot of leeway to do things, especially on the defensive side, even though Witt is a defensive guy. But 21 years at the helm for Kyle Whittingham, and now it's Morgan Scallett. And the heights and the success that Kyle had, and I mean, technically Morgan is 1-0. He got to coach one game, but when they beat Nebraska in the bowl game, and that was kind of his debut, even though it wasn't necessarily his team. Now it's his team, and he's had a whole off season to plan out a schedule, right? To try to build his culture. As aligned as Kyle Whittingham and Morgan may have been, it's still going to be different. And that's what the players are getting used to. And Morgan's feeling himself out as a head coach. And he's got, the success they had last year in a great bounce back season, but there's a lot to replace, right? They lost all 5 starting offensive linemen. That is going to be hard for them to build that continuity up front. There's a talented group they brought in, but they haven't played together. And there's so many things that they'll be doing for the first time with Morgan. I have a lot of confidence in him, but at the end of the day, we still don't know how he's going to be in that role. We think we know, and we think we have a good assessment of Morgan Scalley, but we really, at the end of the day, don't know him as a head coach yet.
Yeah, and that's kind of the deal. I mean, we were down at Big 12 Media Days in Frisco. By the way, have you ever been to Frisco?
I have been to Frisco, Texas. It's in Jerry World out there.
It's so weird. It's like not a real place. It feels like you're in the Truman Show.
It's all of a sudden like it popped up out of nowhere, like this Dallas suburb, right?
Yeah.
Like, oh, there it is. And it was crazy when those reports were coming out that the Mavs and the Dallas Stars might be moving out there.
Yeah.
And now I think they're using it as leverage, because I honestly think they wanted to stay downtown, and they ended up getting what they wanted. But, it was a nice fallback plan. And Jerry World has his training facility out there for the Cowboys, and it is kind of a different spot. Like, okay. Yeah, it's a little different.
It's odd, but I digress. A lot of the people we talked to at Big 12 Media Day, look, everybody knows Morgan. He's been around Utah football as a player and a coach for over 20 years, and a highly sought-after defensive coordinator that reportedly was given an opportunity to go to USC and some other big-time jobs. But he has been patiently waiting because he wanted to be the head coach of this team and this team, period. I mean, we're talking about 2-3 generations of Utah football people in that family, and this is his dream job. But it was interesting because we would ask a guest, like, so what do you think about Morgan Scalley? And they would say, you tell me, like you tell us about how you think this is going to go, because it's just inevitable when somebody hasn't done something before. It takes some time to learn how to do the thing. And Kevin McGivern's a known commodity, but he comes from Utah State, all due respect. And then Colton Swan was a DC, but it was at Weber State. So those two gentlemen are doing this for the first time. And Jordan Gross, who by all accounts is an excellent teacher and a really bright football mind, was coaching in high school a year ago, and now he's the O-line coach. And look, Roxy, like a lot of people talk about, well, Morgan has to fill in for Witt now. Jim Harding might be the best offensive coach in the country, and he was here with Kyle and followed Kyle to Ann Arbor. So Jordan has big shoes to fill in addition to that. So when you have a group of people, whether it's players or coaches, that have never done the thing, I just think you have to wait for a few games before you can analyze what the thing is going to be.
No question. And the one thing I will tell you, just spending time around Morgan, which I've spent a decent amount of time around him in all the Utah games I've done over the years, and I've seen him socially as well a little bit. The one thing I will say about, I've always found him to be extremely prepared and comes in with energy. He knows exactly what he wants to do. And to me, that's half the battle, right? Having that preparation and understanding. And he came into those meetings with a purpose and a message. And I guarantee he's delivering it to his team. And okay, yes, he dealt with one side of the football throughout his career. And now he has the responsibility of the entire team, which is an adjustment, but it's different. And I think he'll be the same detail-oriented coach that I've gotten to know. And the one thing I will say is when you take over a program like this, you get to hire the staff, you get to pick and choose what you want to do on offense, and you find the guy that fits the way you want to operate. And the same thing on defense, he brings in his coordinator, but it's still going to have his fingerprints on it. it's still going to be Morgan Scalley's defense, essentially, even though he might not be as involved as he was before. But I guarantee he's still going to have his fingerprints on it. And from there, because they're getting a feeling out also as assistants working for him for the first time, getting to understand him. So early in the season, there's probably going to be some bumps in the road. It's going to happen. And look, they start off with an easy opponent next week, or an FCS team, and then you kind of build from there, because I think you need to have that soft landing going in. I think that's beneficial for him with Idaho on the schedule next week.
Yeah, when anyone asks me to describe Morgan Scalley, because Roxy's my fraternity brother, we were Sigma Chi's together at the U.
Okay.
The first thing I say is it's organized. Okay, he's organized. He is prepared almost maniacally. When I had him on the podcast and the show a few months ago, off air, we were talking about his staff additions, and I feel like he's known, and of course he had the moniker coach in waiting, but I feel like he's known that he was going to get this job for a number of years. And he described this process where throughout his journey as a coordinator, anytime he met a coach or made a contact that he liked and thought maybe he would want them to work for him one day, he had this running list of all of these coaches on both sides of the ball, positional coaches, coordinators. So as soon as the word came down that Jason Beck was following Witt to Ann Arbor, he had Kevin McGivern's name on this massive list that he's been keeping for 4 or 5 years. As soon as Jim Harding left, Jordan Gross was on the list. Colton Swan was here, but that's the name he had on his defensive. Like, Sharif is still here. There's some continuity. But when you really understand the way that his mind works, Morgan's mind works, he is as prepared and ready for the task as I think you can be at this stage. And I do the qualities of a head coach. I wanted to ask you about that. I mean, I do feel like the personality traits Morgan has do fall in lockstep with the guy that you want running your program.
And that's the thing, is about being detail-oriented, about being prepared. It's a different landscape in college football now. Like before, you had to deal with so much, right? It's even like academics, X's and O's on top of it, managing of roster. And now it's just a completely different landscape. And when you're assembling a staff like he did, and it's interesting that he went and hired, for example, Kevin McGivern, who you talked about as to be his offensive coordinator. He went up against him, so he knows how challenging it is, and he probably was impressed with him over the years. Okay, that's a guy that I would like to have work for me someday. And it's in every profession now when you're in a position to hire. Like, I guarantee you, like, for example, when Mark Harlan was making a coaching change in basketball, right, when he decided to move on from Craig Smith and he brought in Alex Jensen. Okay, Alex Jensen's list was probably the name was at the top of the list, but he had a list together. And if you don't have a list and you're not prepared, that's on you. And as soon as this happened, it appeared that Morgan hit the ground running with people he wanted to bring aboard on his staff. And you have to attack it that way, or you're going to get left in the dust. And that's where his detail orientation comes in and his preparedness comes in. Because right away he was ready to make these decisions. He didn't have to sit down and think, okay, who do I want to be my linebacker coach? Who do I want to coach my defensive line? He knew exactly the direction that he wanted to go in, and that is a good head start that he had.
Yeah, well said. And Kevin McGivern last year, because you remember Bryson Barnes, the pig farmer who was, perpetually Cameron Rising's backup when we all weren't sure when Cameron was going to play. I mean, Bryson Barnes at Utah State ran for 740 yards last year. And Bryson Barnes is not thought to be like, he can run a bit, but Devin Dampier would run circles around Bryson Barnes. So simply from what McGivern did last year at Utah State, I think there's tremendous optimism. I think it's unfair to say the rushing attack is going to be what it was a year ago because it was one of the best in the country. But if they can stay, a lot of people think Morgan wants to be a little bit more pass-centric. I don't know. We're going to have to wait and see. They were 9th in the league in passing a year ago, 1st in the league in rushing a year ago. If they can maintain a top 3 rushing attack and bump up to like top 4 or 5 through the air, then I think they might have something to say about who wins this thing.
Yeah, it's hard to ask them to run for 6 yards a carry again,
yeah,
right?
For sure.
Considering it's a whole new offensive line, and they were just a monster up front last year, and that's why they had so much success in running for almost 270 yards a game. And I think the complexion's going to change. That, okay, because it's a new offensive line, we'll see the tweaks they have because it's still kind of a mystery of how they're going to operate offensively. We think we can go back and watch McGivn's teams and then Ryan Gunderson coaching the quarterbacks, and we can kind of try to assess and play the guessing game to what they might do. But you're not going to know until that first game. And they try to be this mystery, and maybe they'll keep it basic during the first game against Idaho, knowing, okay, that we're probably going to win this game pretty easily. And then you move on. The schedule will get tougher as you go on. They might start to show more and more each week. But that's the way I think in some ways an advantage early for Morgan. Okay, he's feeling his way throughout being a head coach, but teams are trying to figure out how exactly he's going to move. And so when they play Arkansas in week 2, I think they're going to try to keep it vanilla for Idaho and then open it up for Arkansas and try to keep Arkansas guessing as much as they can.
Hey, before I set you loose, I did want to sneak in a little Mammoth because last year was so fun.
Yes.
Last year was just so fun. Having I have a video. I took my son to the first playoff game that was played here, and I mean the atmosphere was so cool. And I like what they've done. Now, the issue with them over the past little bit, and the issue against Vegas, who obviously went on to do something pretty decent, was they would just get pushed around. Like a lot of really good skill players, a lot of good young talent, but they bring in Vincent Trocheck from the Rangers, Anders Lee from the Islanders, two pretty physical, players. Certainly Anders Lee, he was the captain there for a number of years. So they're getting bigger. They're adding some pieces to help with the physicality and the dynamic in front of the net where Vegas pretty much dominated them. Reasonable expectation this year for the Utah Mammoth.
To me, they're still in the toughest division in hockey, right? When you look at the Stars, the Avs in their division, I mean, I expect, well, now the whole drama surrounding Connor Hellebuck, we'll see if Winnipeg can bounce back. But the Blues seem like they're on the upswing. Same with the Blackhawks, as is Utah. And for the Mammoth, I like what Bill Armstrong has done. And you alluded to the two guys they brought in with Lee and also bringing in Trocheck. It gives them more grit, I think, and toughness. And those two guys are going to be great dressing room guys and a physical presence. So, I look, taking a step forward. All right, you made the playoffs. Can you win a round next year? You have to be able to duplicate the success you had in terms of getting to the postseason, but can you advance? Can you win a round? And I think they learned a lot. And the one thing I will praise, I think that Bill Armstrong did a tremendous job of, is getting ahead of the game, right? We're seeing all these monster contracts with the salary cap going up in the NHL. But the monster contracts for guys like Leo Carlson, who's probably benefited from the Philadelphia Flyers hating the Anaheim Ducks. And Anaheim had to match it, and they're paying him $18 million for a good player. I wouldn't call him elite, but I think Leo Carlson's a really good player. And then San Jose handing the huge contract to Celebrini, who's emerging as one of the young stars of the game. But Bill Armstrong got ahead of it. And with the contracts he handed out, getting the Logan Cooley signed up long-term, getting the Nick Schmaltz deal done, Dylan Gunther's contract under manageable numbers, and it's going to be able to, I think, give him some flexibility moving forward. And I got to give him a lot of credit. He got ahead of the game where a lot of the other GMs, I think, in the NHL were playing catch-up.
Roxy, you are the man. Appreciate the time. It's always fun to catch up. Have an excellent week, and it's great to have football back, yeah?
It is. Tomorrow night, I got the Big Sky Showdown here in San Luis Obispo. Idaho and Cal Poly get my season going.
There you go. Well, you'll have the first look at Utah's first opponent, so we might have to have you on next week if you're available.
I guarantee you Morgan Scally is going to be dialed into me tomorrow night. That's for sure.
No doubt. No doubt. Thanks, man.
You got it. Anytime, bud.
Roxy Bernstein from ESPN, truly one of the nicest guys in our entire industry. Got to know him during the Pac-12 days. He was with the Pac-12 network and now does a bunch of stuff with ESPN. I always appreciate Roxy's time. All right, listen up. Here's the deal. Game Day Men's Health. Have you really not done this yet? Number one is a free consultation. No idea why you haven't done it, because it's free and it takes like 20 minutes. Go to GameDayMen'sHealth.com right now to book your free consultation to learn more about your health and where you're at. That's number one. The fact that this is free is pretty wild because you might walk in and they might take a little bit of blood and go over your levels and say, hey, you're totally healthy, get out of here. But they might be able to help you if your energy is low or if you're trying to get back in shape. If you want to get in better shape, if you want to lose a lot of weight, they can help you do all that stuff. So you get the free consultation. They sit with you. They go over your levels. And this month marks 3 years for me since I've started working with them. And I can just tell you, they helped me get in the best shape of my life, and I've maintained it for 3 years. That's my favorite part because you go in every 2 to 3 months to get blood taken to see if your levels are maintaining where you want them to be. I utilize their testosterone therapy, and then I use some of their peptides. So GameDayMen'sHealth.com is where you go to schedule the free consultation. But here's the kicker, and this makes it a no-brainer. Because when I went in there, we were looking at some of the options for some things that I could use to help me with my workouts and help me get some good energy and sleep better. Some of this stuff is expensive, but not with this deal because you get 50% off, half off. This isn't an enter promo code 5% off deal. This is 50% off. Makes it affordable. It's the same deal they give me. So go to GameDayMen'sHealth.com right now. Schedule that free consultation. Cottonwood Heights are bountiful, very easy locations. With our friends at Game Day Men's Health. Also, text football right now. That's football to 33986. Text football to 33986 for your chance to score 2 tailgate passes to next week's Utah football game. It's the tailgate on Guardsman's Way. Got a bunch of good food and drinks up there. I'm going to roll through, so come say hello to me. Love to meet you. This is sponsored by R&R Barbecue, Sound Warehouse, and Budweiser. All right, 2 hours down, 2 hours to go. Coming up next, we are lucky enough that Sean O'Connell, the host of our midday program, is able to catch up with Devin Dampier once a week. We call it Dishing with Devin. We're going to play that for you coming up on the other side. We'll get to some sports court. 5 o'clock hour of the show, then we'll say goodnight at 6 on ESPN 700. Camp Scally is underway for Utah football. We've now moved into game install week as we're just a week away. So for the best coverage of Utes fall camp, keep it tuned into the Sean O'Connell Show and this radio program, which is called The Drive with Spence Checketts. Or visit ESPN700sports.com. Camp Scally is brought to you by SetXL JBR Beer Bar, Citron Cooperman, Big O Tires, Sound Warehouse, and your Utah Toyota dealers on your home of the Utes, ESPN 700. And 92.1 FM. Also, our friends at IFA Country Stores. The crack of the bat, the pop of the ball, baseball season is heading into the home stretch. And it's time for your team to get in the game. Treat your lawn this month with IFA Spring and Summer Lawn Food. It's blended locally and formulated especially for Utah soil. It grows a healthy, lush, and thick dark green lawn. Just another one of our easy steps. Find out more online at ifa.coop. All right, every week we are lucky to have Devin Dampier on the radio station. Sean O'Connell sits down with Dishing with Devin every week, and in case you missed it during the midday, we'll bring it back around right now for you during the afternoon drive.
Utah football 1 week from today. The season kicks off in 7 days. And on Thursdays, we talk with QB number 1, Devin Dampier, Dishing with Dev, brought to you by Culligan, by Valley Plumbing, Heating, and Cooling, and by America First Credit Union. Dev in studio with us. Hello, sir. Good to see you.
Hey, good to be back up in here.
Football season is upon us. Now, let's talk about camp first. Camp is now in the rearview mirror. Morgan Scalley's first camp as the head coach. Camp is never fun. Camp is never easy. But give me your description of what this first camp under Morgan Scalley was from the player perspective.
Yeah, I thought it was a success. Like, right after our last practice, I made sure I went up to Coach Scalley and just let him know I thought he handled, being a head coach's first fall camp was very successful. The way he went about camp was to get as much done at a high speed. At when we do our workouts, it needs to be 100%. There needs to be no letdown. But then he's also putting in analytics of how much we're running. Making sure we're hitting our top speeds every week just to make sure no one's pulling hammies. Like, just the small things like that, you could tell that he was taking everything into consideration and just trying to make it best healthy-wise and also being able to develop.
It seems like, talking to different people about this, that it was intense work. He values that intense work, but it doesn't have to be long. Is that fair?
Yeah, that's the right way to put it. Like, that's what I mean by the 100%.
Okay.
When we're out there, it's straight go. It's straight go. No time to waste, but it makes it better for us. It feels like we have more off time.
More or less you're a quarterback, so contact on quarterbacks. Yeah. But more or less contact than what you've experienced at other places, like when you were at New Mexico and even last year.
Yeah, I would say he kept that kind of the same. He gets on the defense if they get like foot away from me. He makes sure do not get near Devin at all, no matter what the circumstances.
Well, what about if I'm asking Wayshawn this question, if I'm asking Daniel Bray this question, was it more physical, equally as physical? I mean, because one of the big things, and you're probably already aware of this, year by year, right? We examine what the tackling looks like in the first few games of the season, and then you go back to the coaching staff, in the media we do at least, and say, what's with all the missed tackles? Or looks like no missed tackles this year. Did you tackle more in camp? Or, hey, there's a couple more injuries in camp this year. Were you being too physical in camp, right? And it's impossible to win if you're the head coach. But that's why I'm asking the question is you want guys to hit the ground running and be ready week 1 against Idaho, but also you want to make sure that you're not beating up the bodies too much. So was it not for the quarterback, but was it a physical camp?
I would say it was a physical camp, O-line and D-line for sure. I mean, they're blocking each other every single play. I would say there was a little bit of, again, the analytics. He was putting in how many times he thinks it would be useful to start tackling, and we did some of that near the middle / like end of camp just so tackling feels more familiar for, again, game 1 situation. So I think it was handled well, though. I think it was never like the whole entire day as this tackle. There was periods where we made a tackle, then there was periods where we let it be easy, thud tempo. So I thought it was good. I thought asking the guys. No one was ever complaining about, oh, it's a tackle day and things like that. So
for you, obviously, when the lights come on next Thursday, they're trying to tackle you. Everyone's trying to tackle you. The right thing to do for a coaching staff is don't touch the quarterback in practice. Don't go anywhere near him. Don't roll onto his ankle. Don't swat his hand when he's throwing a pass and dislocate his finger, whatever, right? So you're supposed to bubble wrap your quarterback. You're capable of absorbing impact. You can spin away from stuff. You've got the quicks, right? But, like, how do you practice that, your evasiveness, your breaking of tackles, when it's not happening in practice?
You know,
because I imagine there's a challenge to it, right?
Yeah.
Because the first time you really get hit this season is
sure.
going to be in live game reps.
Yep.
And that might be crazy. I mean, I'm thinking of, like, from the combat sports perspective, right? Like, when you're fighting, you got to put in hard sparring rounds during camp. If you don't, you're going to go crazy the first time you get hit hard in the actual fight.
Yeah.
You're not allowed a hard sparring round. They don't take that risk.
Right.
So the first time you get punched
It's the game one.
is game
Yeah.
one. How do you handle it?
I guess it's something I've grown up to be in now. Now that I'm in this position of my fourth year in college, I guess I just happen to get used to it. But that first hit, definitely, I feel it. It's like, okay, I'm back in football mode.
Your body's like, all right, yep, that's what that feels like.
Yep.
We hope it's from, like, a corner.
Yeah, hopefully
instead of a DN.
push me out of bounds. Just give me a little love tap.
Oh, that's amazing. All right, so for the fans who maybe have not ever been part of the transition from camp practices to game prep to install type practices, school year starts, schedule changes a little bit. Describe that transition and maybe the major differences in how practices and workouts are conducted now that it's not camp.
Yeah. So again, camp is more about, obviously we're going against each other. We're trying to put in plays that we feel really confident about to bring into the season. And so is defense. They're trying to figure out what ways they like to line up against certain formations and stuff like that. So, the biggest difference is now we have scout teams. Players have been assigned to, have their scout roles now. And, now we're trying to give the best look that whoever we're going to play against that week, we want to be able to practice our plays against that type of look, what we think we're going to get. And there's more preparation for sure. This is where the film gets, I guess you could say, more serious for me, where I do clock in those hours to just try to see the little tendencies, what a defense can do and stuff like that.
As a guy who unfortunately spent way too much time on the scout team, do you have good looks? I know the coaching staff, right? They do their best to put guys in a position to where they can give you an approximation of what you're going to see in game. But there's a reason scout team guys are scout team guys, right? And the speed can be a little bit different. The size is certainly going to be a little bit different. Obviously, contact. They're not letting scout players especially come and hit the quarterback and things like that. But there's also the question of depth on teams now because of the transfer portal and because it used to be, right, scout team guys could be a future All-American. He's just a freshman redshirting right now. There's less of that in modern-day college football. So are you getting good looks from an athleticism perspective from the scouts?
Yeah. Coach Galley was a scout team player for more than 2 years. So he embodies that into our scout players that, like, when you're out there, like, take advantage of what's happening for you. You're able to, like, for the scout defense, they're able to go against the one offense. They're able to get to see talent going against them every single day. So it's good for them to take those reps. And same for our offense going against their defense. I mean, they get one's defense playing against them, and they can just perfect their craft. So, Coach Galley is big on embodying that role of if you are a scout player, do what you do. Try to be as much into it as you can.
Dishing with Dev brought to you by Culligan Water, Valley Plumbing, Heating and Cooling, and America First Credit Union here on the Sean O'Connell Show. So the end of camp also a lot of times signifies really the end of some of these position battles that have been happening in camp. And we talked last week, and I was like, who would the starting offensive line be? And you're like, I don't know. Is there any more clarity? Like, and no one's going to tell me who those starting five are. I don't expect you to. But do you feel like now that camp is closed, the clarity there has been established?
I would say maybe three of the spots are, but again, we're still, I guess, certain players do certain things better.
Which 3 spots?
Yeah. But yeah, certain players have, their own skill set on what they do. So just, I guess, kind of depending upon the vibe. But I'm glad we have depth. I'm glad that we have this problem where we're trying to figure out who goes in, because that just means the next guy is able to play.
Could you see a situation where, almost always in football, the starting 5 is the starting 5, and unless someone gets hurt or whatever, it's that starting 5. Given some of the flexibility or the differentiation and skill set or things like that, could you see a situation where this year's offensive line is handled a little bit more like other position groups are, where there is like regular substitution, or Jordan Gross, Kevin McGivern, do they want to make sure it is a starting 5 by the time you roll out an actual game plan?
Yeah, for the most part, I think you want a starting 5, but I could imagine, the first game we just dinkle around, just probably show those different groups of guys that's up there in that front 5, and just kind of see how they work in a real game situation.
Last year, the starting 5 was obviously fantastic, but then there was a lot of big body packages. There's jumbo stuff, right? So it was like you had like the starting 5, but then also like the starting 6 sometimes, and now you got these rhino packages and stuff. So it's like we're talking about potentially 6 or 7 big body blockers that they're going to be using.
Yeah, for sure. We get in. We make it real stressful for the defense. You got to prepare for every single thing when you're a DC going against us.
Last week when we talked, we touched on Wayshawn a lot. We talked about your wide receiving core. I don't think we had a good conversation about Hunter Andrews and what role he could play in this offense. And obviously we saw some flashes from him last year, this time of the year last year, and then an injury kind of washed all that away. Mm-hmm. The coaching staff at that point wasn't 100% sure what they wanted to do with him. Is he a running back? Is he a tight end? Is he a hybrid of those things? What sort of description would you give to his role in this year's offense if you could characterize it?
Yeah. I guess, man, I think he's like a true playmaker when you talk about, like, if you could build someone like on Madden to like be able to play every skill position, it would be Hunter. Like,
okay,
he's tall enough, he's big enough to play tight end, he's physical enough to actually block. If a linebacker wants to come in and, he's able to add himself in protection, and then he's also faster than the linebackers. He's also able to take a handoff and make positive yards out of that. So Hunter, like, he literally does everything. He finds value in just being able to be on the field. Like, we can trust him to be in any position, and he's going to go ball out.
Utah fans aren't going to like this comparison, but like Taysom Hill, what he was in the NFL, obviously a little bit more quarterback situation for him, but like I see Mac G using Hunter Andrews in that kind of a role where, like you said earlier with the blocking schemes, like a defense is just going to be like, what the hell, what are they doing with this guy now?
Yeah.
And you got to stay prepared for all of it.
Yeah, he causes a lot of stress, so I'm happy he's on my team.
That's nice for you and for everyone cheering for these Utes in the 2026 campaign. Some big picture stuff here. I know you focus on Idaho, you focus on week 1, but as the game plan comes together, the playbook really comes together, because some of camp is experimentation with what's working and what's not working and all that stuff. Are you, I won't say satisfied, are you happy with the progression of the offense from the first day of install back in the spring to now?
Yeah, for sure. I think just having the amount of meetings, us and the receivers together, like just having those type of meetings, and even me stopping by in the O-line meetings every once in a while, just talking about stuff. I feel like we've created offense. It's our offense now. And Mac G, he gives us that authority to make the offense ours. We started making checks and stuff that hasn't really necessarily been taught to us. Just small things like that where we're making the offense us, where it feels like we embodied it.
I think you're probably not this type of guy, but you also have friends and family that are going to be sending you links and showing you where you appear in you know you're on the Davey O'Brien watch list. You know that ESPN is like, this is a top 15 quarterback in the nation, whatever. How do you react to the external expectation that these random publications and award watch lists and stuff like that, like, how do you think about those things as you go about your daily business?
Yeah, man, I try to stay off the internet when season starts scrolling up. I'm not big into seeing myself. I be telling my mom and dad, don't be sending me nothing during the season. I don't want to see it.
Really?
I'm okay. Yeah, like I'm okay. Just let me keep going week by week. Let me keep balling. And my
Sorry, mom and dad, I just ruined all that. I just told Dev where he is on all the watch lists.
But I'm so happy that they get excited about those things. They're so involved in my whole entire football journey. So I know it's so exciting for them. But I'm like, keep it away from me. Let me lock in. Let me do what I got to do, because none of it matters to the end.
Okay. I think I understand that mentality, but articulate it for me. Why do you not want to know where The Athletic says you belong ranking with all the other quarterbacks? And why do you not want to pay attention to that stuff?
Yeah. I think the normal things I get is like, and maybe he runs too much. I don't know. People come up with like the craziest narratives I've ever heard of.
It's the blurb, right? It's the blurb that bothers you.
Yeah, or like, oh, this guy threw for more yards than him, or he had just stuff that would make me start to question my gameplay and how I'd want to go about things. I never want other people to tell me how I should play football. Like, I was able to get myself in this position of all the great coaches that's got me here and things like that. And I just want to continue to, trust in my game, play how I play, not letting others dictate.
That does make sense. With respect to that narrative, right? Too dependent on the legs, or his arm is this or it's that. I feel like what we saw from you last year was excellent quarterback play where you could do it all. The asterisk, if there is one, was we don't really know, because of the health problem, what the ceiling of that looks like. Is that fair? Where it's like, when you watch last year's film, even in games where you played great, maybe you didn't feel great.
Right.
So I look at some of those numbers, like, that's a hell of a game from Dev, but would it have been even better if both of his legs worked properly? You know what I mean?
For sure.
Is that the right way for us to be viewing our expectations of you for this year?
Yeah, no, even out of myself, I'm expecting myself to, like, I would say this is the first fall camp where I felt like it was playing out there never got too fast for me. Like, I felt like, I've been here before the games really slowed down, where it didn't slow down during camp. Like, I got in there and I was already prepared. So, I feel like I'm at a level where I should be able to be at my best, every single game.
We already talked about last week the sort of chemistry with your receivers and that kind of thing. What about throwing motion, footwork, the mechanics of being a passer? Do you have to tweak things like that because you were adjusting again to some, like, a lack of a base last year? Your arm angle probably had to be a little bit different, or you were throwing more with your shoulder than with your hips because you had all these injuries and stuff like that. Was there an adjustment period of getting back to throwing like a healthy person?
Yeah, I would say, that started as soon as I could throw a ball. It took about 6-8 weeks for me to be able to throw a football again after my surgery.
Where are the best wings in our city?
That was about kind of spring coming in, so I was able to get in Arizona, get back with my QB trainer, just hitting those type of things. But, man, in game, it's so rare that you get the exact clean pocket, like when there's no movement, where you don't have to make arm angle throws. And, that's something my coaches like about me, that I'm able to change my arm angle at times to be able to get the ball through the D lineman and stuff like that. So there's a little bit of things going into it, just the way we call plays, the way we read through things, that obviously changed the way my footsteps work. But, man, ultimately, I feel like I'm in a good spot where I can make any throw.
Devin Dampier for a couple more minutes here on the Sean O'Connell Show, dishing with Dev, brought to you by Culligan Water, Valley Plumbing, Heating, and Cooling, and America First Credit Union. You are more popular than you were last year. You're more established than you were last year. You are thought of highly, not only locally, but nationally as a quarterback. With that comes opportunities, NIL opportunities, who knows what else, right? Part of being a modern-day college football player, especially quarterback, is you also have to be a good businessman. Have you been able to put that in the proper box as the season approaches, as, you know, these interviews like this more common, et cetera, et cetera? How has the extracurricular football stuff been now that you're, you know, a more firmly established starter as the season approaches?
Yeah. I think it's been a lot more me now. You know, I think I came in a little bit more on the, like, nervous side of last year, just not fully expressing who I was, I guess you could say, in a way. But, man, this year, you know, just the amount of respect people are allowing me to have, and, you know, just it's allowed me to feel like, you know, I can be myself at all times. And that's just something that I've kind of told myself I want to do this year. You know, I want to be myself no matter the situation. And that just goes into my leadership also. Like, that translates on the field. I don't want to be the guy where, you know, if they score first and then we don't score, I'm being pouty on the sideline. Like, I want to be the same guy. I want everyone to – I never want to switch up for any situation. So, and I think it's honestly some people have been enjoying. I've been getting feedback about it. Just they're like, man, I've never had an interview like you. You're very uplifting and very yourself, and, you know, that's just something I want to give off.
Speaking of leadership, the way that the leadership dynamic on a slightly remade roster has developed through camp and in the first week of, you know, install and things like that. Any surprises for you, or is it the guys that you thought were going to be those guys?
Yeah, for the most, yeah, because I don't know. There's this guy. You can tell the other guys in the locker room too that have influence on others. They're able to say stuff, and, you know, you see guys turn their head and they really listen. So we already had our leadership council group, and, you know, you could tell those guys were. You could tell they're all taking steps in their own leadership role as well, going through fall camp.
There's different types of leadership on football teams, right? Like Morgan Scalley, your head coach now, he was the great player who was also a great vocal leader, and the other two best players on the team, on that year's team, offensive lineman who never said a word, Chris Kemoyatu, scariest guy on the planet, never said a dang thing. Alex Smith was the best quarterback in the country, didn't really say a lot in the locker room. So who fills those roles? Who's like the strong silent type, and who's the one that you know is going to say the right thing at the right time?
Yeah. I would say me and Lance are probably the most, like, both-sided leaders, I would say, if that makes sense. Like I feel like I can go to the defense and say something, and, you know, they will respect my opinion. And I think Lance is that defensive guy that can come over and say something to offense, and, you know, we'll respect what he says as well.
How has Lance become that? Because with respect to Lance, and I know there's a lot of factors that play into this, like his on-field resume does not yet say he is undeniably that. You know what I mean? Because sometimes it takes, like, production. You got to be a guy coming off an all-conference season and things like that. And I have no doubt his capabilities, and I'm crazy impressed with him. But, like, it's not like he's coming off an All-American year last year. So how has he established himself to that level, even with an offense, when his on-field production maybe hasn't met that just yet?
Yeah, I think it's his compelling. You know, he's, like, again, he talks to the offense just as much as he talks to his side of the ball. Like, to put that type of effort into, you know, trying to make the whole team, trying to be a compelling guy to anybody on the team, you know, that's something he does very well. You know, he makes sure he's like, and Lance is everywhere just because we all feel comfortable and invite him, just because he's made it where that's something he put work into. He put work into making guys feel welcome when he's around.
What do you think of the stuff that's happening in college football right now, where, like, dudes who were on NFL rosters last week are coming back to college football? Guys who were in the NBA last week are coming back to college basketball. And this was unthinkable 10 years ago, even 5 years ago when NIL and all that stuff started to happen, we didn't think of this being a possibility.
Right.
And now, I mean, you're going to have your own decision to make at some point about a 5th year of eligibility and all that. But this is, for me, really, really hard to swallow and crazy. What's it like for someone who's actively in the game right now?
Yeah, no, I mean, you know, if the opportunity makes sense, you know, I hope people are able to get that opportunity. But, yeah, it was a little crazy. Somebody broke down something like someone actually played in a preseason game and got paid for it and then came back. Like, to me, that's insane.
That's bananas.
To actually compete in a game, like, get paid for the NFL, be in the NFL, and then come back to college. Like, it does sound a little crazy to me.
I mean, there's guys who have signed NBA contracts that are just like, nah, just kidding. I play for BYU.
Yeah.
Like, what?
No. I'm coming back.
No, you're not. That's not. It's like we all had that dream, right? You woke up one morning, you're just like, I had a dream last night that I went back and played another game for my high school. And it's just like you laugh at yourself about it. That's what they're doing now in college football.
Yeah, there's something about college may have a better life than the NFL right now. So it's like,
well,
we got to find a way. There's got to be some type of balance where, like, we still want people to go to the NFL.
Do you watch Hard Knocks? Have you seen any of the Hard Knocks? Okay, so this was hilarious because I think it was from this year's Hard Knocks. They do the thing where rookie stands up, introduces himself, and says what his signing bonus was, right? And if you a first rounder and you got some crazy huge signing bonus, everyone's hooting and hollering. Most people are just like, 5th round pick, 7th round pick, $15,000 signing bonus or whatever. And one guy was just like, $15,000 signing bonus, made $700,000 last year in NIL. And all these old guys in the league, it's like, what?
Yeah.
What are you doing here then?
Yeah, right.
Because
you don't want to stay another year.
Yeah, because those guys are like, we'd made $0 when we were in college, and
right.
That's crazy because you're talking about a guy who was an unbelievable college player, got compensated for it. Maybe there's some doubts if he'll be a good NFL player, so they're just like, yeah, you can have a $10,000 signing bonus or whatever. So it's just like, that's got to be a hard learning curve if you're in that category. If you're a bubble guy on an NFL roster, but you were like Diego Pavia is the best example I can think of, right?
Yep.
Heisman Trophy finalist at Vanderbilt, making millions at Vanderbilt. The NFL doesn't want him. You're probably like, let me go back to Vanderbilt then.
Yeah, right. Like that. Yeah, it's crazy to me. It's crazy to me that, like, you just hear people say, like, I'd rather stay in college. And then it's like, that shouldn't be the case, but it is. It is the case.
We're going to wait, but you and I are going to have this conversation at some point when we get close to the end of the year because these are things that are going to, going to rear their head for everybody.
Yeah, right.
Crazy. A week away from playing the first game. What is the nervousness, the feeling, the anticipation when you got 7 more days before football season is actually for real here?
Yeah, man, the nervousness has not hit me this year. Okay. I don't know. I don't think I'm nervous at all, honestly. I think, like, this is my 4th year of college. They're like,
if you were playing Arkansas in week 1 instead of Idaho, would that be different?
Nah.
Okay.
I think, like, just my self-confidence, my self-belief, and how far I've been able to see myself come up as a football player, like, man, my confidence is through the roof. I'm just like, this is everything. I worked to be at this situation. I worked to be here and feel like I'm getting to my complete self. So, I'm very confident just going into this situation.
That's QB1 Devin Dampier for Dishing with Dev. Culligan Water, Valley Plumbing, Heating, and Cooling, and America First Credit Union are your sponsors making this interview possible every single week. Also, Dev's here in studio, so all you folks that last week were like, where's the YouTube? Because you want to see Dev's pretty face.
It's here.
ESPN700sports.com. The YouTube link is there on the page. So you can go watch it, and it'll be available on the app and all that stuff. Dev, it's great to see you.
Good to see you, too. It's always fun.
We'll be doing this every single week. Good luck with game prep. And then, obviously, the next time we have this conversation, it's for real, for real.
It's for real, for real. Game week.
It is sports court time. I have misbehaved with the clock. I owe my friends Garrett and Preston Handy, who are on the show together for the first time in a minute, a sincere apology. Gentlemen, apologies. Happy Thursday. How are we doing?
Hey, Spence. Doing well. How you doing?
No problem, Spence. Hype.
Doing well. Appreciate your time as always. So, of course, it's dominated sports media headlines as it's an odd thing that we have to talk about it, but we do, as each power conference now has put some things into place to prohibit pros from coming back to college. I honestly can't believe we're doing this, but here we are. The floor is yours.
Yeah, Spence. And, there's a lot of legal issues involved. We've talked a lot about the historical part is that there's been tons of eligibility fights. And what motivates them is players want to come back and get another year or two so they can earn NIL money. And these eligibility fights have been lawsuits against the NCAA. They've made antitrust arguments, and these have all been nuanced. There's been, I played junior college football. That didn't count against my eligibility. I played Division III. That didn't count against it. I missed my medical red shirt. That didn't count against it. And along the way, the NCAA was losing most of these eligibility fights. And so what the NCAA did this spring is they said, okay, we're going to get rid of you got 5 years to play for. We don't want any more eligibility fights. Wink, wink. They knew there would be, but they said you get 5 years to play 5, and every time there's a decision or rule put in place, there's usually someone left out. And who was left out? The players that came in 2022 and graduated in 2026. They didn't get a fifth year. And the reason they didn't, and this makes a lot of sense, is because guess what? You've got a whole class of incoming freshmen, walk-ons, transfers, with roster spots. And if they let these carryovers, the seniors go, it'll take away those roster spots. And, where do you go with that? So what happened was there was some lawsuits filed. In Colorado was the first one. A bunch of athletes said, wait, we want our fifth year. And the judge agreed with them. They granted an injunction. And not only did she agree with their injunction, she granted away a nationwide injunction. Well, the NCAA said, wait a minute, you don't even have authority to do that. And they actually won. They got to stay on that injunction. Well, there's injunction fights going all over the country. And recently there's some in Louisiana, and a judge said, yeah, we're going to grant injunctions for whom? Guess what? A couple of former NFL players, a Cleveland Brown player and a New Orleans Saints player, who wanted to come back and play for Lane Kiffin. And the judge granted the injunction, and all of a sudden everything blew up, and everyone's like, wait a minute. And like you said, Spence, I can't even believe we're talking about this. But I'll let Garrett jump on this. And the conferences this week, they said, wait a minute, we got to get ahead of this. So it's reported that all of the Big Four conferences were waiting on the SEC. They put into some rules Garrett will talk about. And they even made another. I just read about their some really stringent penalties towards coaches who allow players to potentially come back from pro leagues. But I think there's potentially going to be some lawsuits. But I think the conferences are really being smart about this. And maybe the Big 12, their proactive, aggressive move with Sorsby and the Texas Tech is kind of a blueprint for this. But I'll let Garrett talk about what's going on with what the conferences are doing.
Go ahead, Garrett.
Yeah, and more or less, and I'm sure you guys have been talking about it a lot, but if you've previously declared for the draft, if you signed a contract with a pro team, or if you've been listed on a roster, that's more or less what needs to have happened. And each conference has been a little bit different. I don't know that the ACC has come out with anything yet, but I'm sure they'll follow suit. The SEC included the NBA and WNBA, where the Big 12 was just looking at football, and then the Big 12 that we just, their policy yesterday is even more broad to really include any sport if you go pro. So they're attacking this legal ruling in their own way to say, hey, we're just going to establish a policy. And like Preston said, maybe we're going to be talking about more antitrust lawsuits at some point. But for now, I think they're, putting their finger in the hole in the dike. So we'll see if that holds.
Yeah, the ACC actually made it official about 20 minutes ago that they're joining the other three. So now it's all four.
So, Spence, let me add to this. So think about this. I'm reading this right now. The SEC came out and they said discipline under a new policy unanimously approved. The penalties include half-season suspension for a coach, a fine that includes 50% of the sport's annual budget, and revocation of a league voting rights sources confirmed. So think about it. A coach in the SEC, a player wants to get eligibility and come back. You think that coach is going to say, yeah, I've got a roster spot for you? He's not.
Yeah.
And so what's going to happen is they aren't going to fight this legally. I think this is going to – I hope it puts together because the conference is saying, well, we know we're going to still have antitrust lawsuits, but these players won't fight it. They won't go to court if there's not an eligibility fight. And the NFL jumped in on this today, and they came out with a policy that said, hey, you guys that have entered rookie camps and you might make a practice squad or whatever, and you decide to go back to college and you don't get back in, guess what? You ain't coming back to the NFL this season. So you won't even have that option. And some players can earn pretty decent money on a practice squad and potentially move up. So I think everyone's coming together. And my opinion is it's the fans, it's the consumers, it's the public, it's us that are going, wait a minute. This is out of control. But do we really want to see former NFL guys, on rosters in colleges? I don't think anybody wants to see that.
Yeah, wild times. No doubt about that. Let's move over to a story where the New York Times is going to be on the hook for about $9.3 million after they defamed an Alabama basketball player. What's going on here?
Yeah, and surprisingly, Spence, I think we've talked about a lot of defamation cases over the years with you in the sports context, but here's one where the New York Times got tagged for a $9 million verdict by a jury in Alabama, and so this goes back to a couple of years ago. If you remember, there was a shooting, and it involved a couple of Alabama players. One was there, and was charged, and a couple other guys in the car. And anyway, one of the stories that came out pretty quickly from the New York Times implicated this player, Kai Spears, on the basketball team. And he shot back right away and said, no way, I was not involved, had a pretty good alibi and was backed up by the school and all of that. And so but went on the offensive on this and sued the New York Times and won. Like I said, the New York Times did not have their obviously not a strong enough defense here to say that they had solid sources and that they had correct reporting. And so he could show that this harmed him, right? And especially in the era of NIL where players are worried about that, right? I mean, it can literally now cost them money if there's some bad publicity like this. And so I think it's just interesting because you do have the NIL angle on how things have changed. And so now you've got a defamation case with a victory against the defendant.
You're up, Preston.
Yeah, we've talked about defamation cases, and the elements of a defamation case are, someone publishes either verbally or in writing a statement of fact that is indeed false. They negligently do it, and it causes damages, and here the guy caused damages. I love the New York Times statement. They come out and said, they said, I'm looking for it. They said, this was an honest mistake. We thank the jury for their service, but we think the award of damages are contrary to law and not supported by evidence. Well, apparently they came in with a damage model that supported, potentially his earning capacity that was hurt by this. And yeah, it sounds like a big award, but the jury did that, and this is their first loss, they said.
All right, moving over to potential billionaire siblings fighting with each other. It's been a wild couple of weeks for the ownership transition in the land of the LA Lakers, and the Buss family were reported to be selling their stake, and Jeannie has petitioned a court asking a judge to block the sale. What's the latest here? Yeah,
so I guess this guy, what's his name? He's all over the news now. Mark Walter. He and a group bought the Lakers a few years ago, and but the Buss Family Trust, they maintain 17.8% of the control. And Jeannie Buss, she's who we know as part of this, but the trust maintain control. And I want to get this out there. Her siblings are Joey, Janie, Johnny, Jimmy, and Jesse. Jerry Buss wasn't real creative with his names there, but now is looking to sell the Lakers. And Jeannie Buss says, hey, this came out of nowhere for me. I didn't know anything about it. So she has sued her brothers and sisters, and she's gone to the court, 97-page petition, and here's what she's asking the court to do. she says she wants to instruct the co-trustees, that's Joey and Janie, that they need to observe the 2017 court order that requires them to take actions to ensure her appointment as the controlling owner, declare her siblings' resolution to sell invalid. That means that this Walters guy, this wouldn't go through, and remove Joey and Janie as trustees, hold the co-trustees at contempt of court, and the other siblings want them to be held responsible and in contempt for aiding and abetting. So this is going to be a long, drawn-out thing. It probably, I think it will hold up the sale of the Lakers here. I mean, it was reported $12.5 billion for that, and Jeannie's, she loves her position there. She's the governor of the team. She gets to kind of be the figurehead of even in her current position, even though it's 17.8%, she's the face and the governor. And she says, this is ruining the value just keeps increasing, so not time to sell. So this will be long and drawn out, and Thanksgiving that the Bus family get together is not going to be very, very cordial.
Yeah, no doubt. All right, Gary, you're up, bud.
Oh, just to tell Jeannie to let it go. Let's come on. Let's move on.
Take your billions and go enjoy life. All right, for the sake of time, we'll end with this one, and it still is a story that is leaving my head spinning. Jed York, who is the owner of the San Francisco 49ers, took over as the majority owner a few years back. He's been kind of the main chief executive there since 2008. Was arrested at a trailer park in Ohio for agreeing to pay $140 for sexual activity. That's a real sentence that I just said for a billionaire. Gentlemen, what's going on?
Yeah, those actually are the kind of the details that do need to come out on this. But wow, yeah. What I think, and look, the case is kind of done at this point, and that's the interesting part in my mind. As opposed to, we spent a lot of time here talking about the Robert Kraft case, right? Which maybe has some similarities here, where he fought the evidence that was going to come in, and ultimately got off, right? But here. What he ended up doing is he got this done real quick and pled down to some lesser charges. It was a disorderly conduct charge, and in Ohio they call it possessing criminal tools. Apparently that's his cell phone, because he was using his cell phone to make this arrangement, but it was a sting operation. So he pleaded no contest on both of these, got sentenced right away, like a day in jail, and but they considered his time served and a small fine, and so its case is open, shut, quick, and maybe that's a strategy, a defense strategy here for him to just try to hope that this thing gets out of the headlines as quick as possible.
Preston, final word is yours, bud.
Yeah, the things that jumped out at me, East Palestine, Sunday morning at 35 a.m. at the Wheat Hill Mobile Home Community. That's where this all went down. And like Garrett said, the wheels of justice moved fast here. Now it's in the NFL's hands what they want to do.
All right, gentlemen, before I set you loose, for any of our listeners who have legal questions, how can they get a hold of you over at Handy and Handy?
Yeah, I would love to hear from anyone out there. Give us a call about your legal issues, especially if you have a personal injury case. That's what we specialize in. Give us a call at 801-264-6677 or visit our website at handylawutah.com. You can learn all about us and submit your questions there. We'd love to hear from you.
Next Thursday when we chat, it will be game day for the Utes, which is always fun. Have an excellent weekend, gentlemen, and, of course, go Utes.
Go Utes. Thanks, Spence.
Thanks, Spence.
All right, Garrett and Preston Handy from the law firm of Handy and Handy. The Utah State Fair is coming up, and ESPN 700 wants to send you and the family. Tune in to the Sean O'Connell Show around noon for a chance to score a family 4-pack of tickets to the Utah State Fair. More details can be found at ESPN700sports.com. All right, 3 hours down, 1 hour to go. The final hour of the program is next on ESPN 700. All right, wrapping up the program for a Thursday afternoon. Tomorrow's weekend time, a Friday show. We will get you ready for the weekend the right way, as we try to do every Friday. Reminder that coming up tonight at 10:35 on KMYU, you can watch episode 23 of Talkin' Real. It is the TV show I do with Brian Dunseth, covering a soccer club right now that cannot find its way. Dunny was pretty passionate, so check that out. And we are 1 week away from game day for Utah football. Porter, we are 1 week out, so I've got to bring it back around. How great is it, man? How great is ball?
Literally the greatest.
It's great.
So,
yep. Can I read you my favorite tweet from Football Guy of the Day?
Yeah.
I don't know why this came across my timeline.
Let's do it.
Hot take, watching football is not a social event. Going to a tailgate and barely watching the game or going to a watch party at someone's house sounds like actual hell. A nice quiet house alone with 1 to 2 homies locked in is the only way to watch ball.
Who is this?
Like everybody else on that cesspool of a website, he's some anonymous random bro.
A little extra there, bud. But don't necessarily disagree on a lot of those parts.
You want to be locked in at your house. And by the way, it's 1 to 2 homies locked in watching ball.
I'd prefer to be on the sideline, to be clear, or up in the press box. That's the best way to view a football game. But, outside of my official capacity up at Rice Eccles, I'm usually locked in a small apartment with a large TV.
Mm-hmm.
And 1 or 2 homies, maybe none.
Mm-hmm. Just crushing tape.
Yeah.
Watching ball. Because how great is ball, Porter? How great is ball?
Unquantifiable.
Yeah. I can't find the words either. I'm somewhat of a wordsmith, okay? If the words existed to quantify how great ball was, I could find them, but I cannot find them.
A linguist, if you will.
Yeah. Look, some people are saying the favorite to win Best Utah via City Weekly.
I don't know that we got odds on that yet.
No, I'm not saying that. I'm saying people around the community seem to indicate that prediction markets are saying that I'm the favorite to win that award.
Okay.
So we'll see. Did you vote for me?
I didn't yet.
You voted for the Wizard, didn't you?
I'm kind of debating still.
Again, we have a prophet and we have a wizard, and then we have me who could potentially be both of those.
Right. Bridging the gap.
I could start a cult, dude. I'm pretty confident that I can do that.
If you win this award, it might be a little leg up on that.
Porter, we have been waiting for our side hustle.
Right.
I will promise to the community, if I win the award of Best Utah via City Weekly, we'll start to gather, and we'll see where it goes.
Where are you going to gather?
I don't know, but I'm going to need 20% of everyone's income streams.
20.
Well, look, if we're going to start a movement, we need funds.
Of course.
People are saying I'm the favorite. I'm hearing from a lot of people indicating I'm the favorite to win the award.
Probably people voting for you. But
it's just, do you think people know when I'm launching into a bit? Or do you think there are people,
No.
You don't think so?
Every time you do the nepotism thing, people text in.
It's my favorite. That's my favorite bit.
Dude, really?
That's my favorite bit. And I love that nobody knows that I'm clearly making fun of the entire dynamic. In fact, let's revisit this real quick. Porter, remind our listeners the official stance of the Drive with Spence Checketts on nepotism in the United States.
Can't have it. Don't like it.
Anti.
Not about it.
Earn your way. Meritocracy. That's what we do here every day.
In fact, if you have lineage or a name with that ID, I think you should be disadvantaged in some way.
You should be jailed, potentially. In fact, is my dad on the show tomorrow?
No.
Okay.
Unless you want him to be.
Yeah, I'll make a call. We'll figure it out.
I'll leave a spot open for you.
By the way, a lot of people were wondering if the moment of loudness was going to continue. It will. Utah Athletics sent out the fan experience highlights for the 2026 Utah football season email today. New LED lights. Those are supposed to be really cool. Excited to see those. The moment of loudness is back. The cauldron lighting will take place. And then we have some breaking news. There's a pregame DJ, and it's me. I'm the pregame DJ.
Are you really?
DJ Doobie.
like a hype man.
I've been moonlighting as a DJ. I haven't told anybody this. The pregame DJ is me.
It's not DJ Brad Fox or Brad whatever.
Brad Thomas, DJ Brad Thomas. So the DJ will now operate within the mighty Utah student section to enhance the pregame energy as the Muss celebrates its 25th anniversary this season.
The DJ has in the past been our guy Bangarang. So you still his job?
Yeah, it's in fact, Paul, if you're listening, and we know that you are, look at me, Paul. Get on YouTube. I'll wait. ESPN 700 on YouTube. ESPN 700 Sports on YouTube. Paul, look at me. I want to DJ this season.
It's just an hour of Dave Matthews before the game.
I've got range.
Okay.
I don't think the
warehouse playlist.
That's actually a good idea. It would hype people up. Little Carter Beaufort action pregame. I don't think the youngs even know Dave Matthews Band anymore. Like the Muss, the number of people in the Muss that know Dave Matthews Band, probably very small. The ones that do probably know through their parents.
Of course. This is true.
And it's not my fault that they're uncultured musical swines. I mean, you should listen to the greatest drummer of all time, Carter Beaufort, and the greatest live band of this generation. There's no, Porter, you don't want to do this with me today.
I don't, actually.
I know you don't. I know you don't. So
the Darius Rucker of jam bands.
Don't you ever say that again. That you offended me. In 5 years of working together, you just offended me for the first time.
Do you want to revisit my poll that I did?
No, because your followers don't know either. Darius Rucker is a hack. Dave Matthews Band are artists.
Okay.
Changing lives out here. Okay, in addition, we also have the Arrival, which is the welcome to the Rice-Eccles Stadium. So everyone kind of does the Ute Walk. Enhanced mobile concession orderings, grab-and-go concessions, East Eats food trucks, improved security screening and entry process. There are some tickets still available. So you should download the Utah 360 app, and you can purchase some tickets for opening day against Idaho, which is 1 week from today. Do you have details for your pregame show yet?
We're going to be live at Beer Bar.
Nice.
I can tell you that much.
Very nice.
With it being a Thursday kind of odd show, at least for week one, I was probably going to request a presence of one Spence Checketts. Zach Moss will make an appearance. And we'll go from there. It'll be kind of dependent on who's available week to week and the matchup as well. Depending on who Utah's playing is kind of going to dictate who I want to talk to, and we'll go in that direction.
Do you want me to be on the pregame show with you?
I think on Thursday.
All right. Happy to.
You're only doing like an hour.
Oh, I know.
And I'll be at Beer Bar.
Yeah.
So I was just going to say, hey, on your way through, stop by, do a segment.
Happy to do it. Done. Grab a sandwich at Beer Bar. Nothing wrong with that. All right, a couple of house cleaning things before we say goodnight. First of all, it was really hot today again. It was in the 90s. How is your house? Do you have the air conditioning on? And is your home still really warm? Well, make sure that your family is comfortable. Get some good sleep at night. Because if that's what's going on in your home, in addition to it maybe being cold in the winter when you have the heater up, you need new windows. Happens to homes, but right now it's the best time to get those replaced because our friends at Advanced Window Products are allowing you to save $2,500, real money, when you purchase 10 windows or more. Fall's coming up. Maybe you're looking to sell your home, school season and such. Improve the curb appeal of your home by replacing your windows with our friends at Advanced Window Products. Lifetime warranties transferable to the new homeowner, and they honor them. We're going to be on location with them coming up next week. So go to advancedwindows.com. That's advancedwindows.com or dial 801-850-9100. That's 801-850-9100. Our friends at Advanced Window Products. Also, America First Credit Union. Okay, if you're looking for a new bank, if you're frustrated with some of the big national brands or some of the local banks that don't take care of you, Credit Union is the way to go because you can grow your wealth. They've got a great offer right now. You can make payday effortless by enrolling in direct deposit with America First. Get your paycheck deposited automatically into your account so you can access your money faster and avoid the hassle of manual deposits. Getting paid shouldn't take extra effort. Direct deposit ensures your money goes straight into your account automatically, giving you faster access to your funds and one less thing to worry about every payday. Convenience. Set it up once and enjoy automatic deposits every payday. Faster access. Get access to your money sooner without waiting on manual deposits. It's a seamless experience. It's easy setup through digital banking with a smooth, reliable process. Enroll in direct deposit today and make payday effortless. Set it up through online or mobile banking. Visit a branch or contact us for assistance. That's our good friends at America First Credit Union. All right, Porter, how are we getting our weekend started out right? What's coming up on a Friday show?
Friday edition of The Drive, after we so rudely dropped off air and had to punt on one Brandon Marcello. He will join the program, of course, talking some college football. Bill Bush, Morgan Scalley's safeties coach at the University of Utah, stops by 6 days from kickoff. We'll do our PGA Tour leaderboard update with Paul Pugmire. And then I left a segment open for one of either Dave Checketts or Yogi Roth. So
yeah, let's do that. Let's make sure that we get that done. The battle for the FedEx Cup going on. Didn't talk much golf tomorrow. We'll do that, or today. We'll do that tomorrow with Paul Pugmire. All right, we will say goodnight. Special thank you today to Stevenson Sylvester, Brian Dunseth, and Roxy Bernstein, our friends from Sports Court. If you missed any of our sound from the show today, you can go to the website, which is ESPN700sports.com. Download the app. You can listen to Utah football on it. The ESPN 700 app is available in the App Store and the Google Play Store for free. And our podcast is free. It's called The Drive with Spence Checketts. It's available wherever you get your shows. You can also check out episode 21 of Reality Check with Spence Checketts, former Utah quarterback Frank Dolce. For Porter, I'm Spence saying good night. Have a great Thursday evening. We'll talk to you on a Friday Drive. As always, you can catch it right here on ESPN 700.